This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate second and final part of what if Naruto accidentally goes to another dimension and becomes Demon Lord. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
I don't understand why the Shinryu would stoop so low as to accept missions like this. She answered honestly, not even interested in how he learned about the fight, saying, it was difficult, plus she was able to dual-wield swords that made it harder. Somehow, she knew he knew. You could have taken the gravity seal off, it would have made things way easier. Setsuna's face flushed. Actually I kind of forgot I had it active still. Eva made a faceplant. I figured. When my chakra joined yours, it gave you some of my healing and added it to yours. When your muscles rip during your training, they heal faster, making it so you get used to the extra weight quicker. I want you to increase the weight every day from now on by whatever you feel comfortable with. Yes, Naruto. Sama. Tomorrow I'll have a clone go with you and help you learn to channel your chakra. What will you be doing, Naruto? Sama. Well, me and Eva Chan here have a little date. You and Eva S.San. She attempted to strike him, but he decided it would be best to doge him instead. Stupid fox, I told you not to call it that. Steering clear of all the blows aimed at him, he said, come on Eva Chan, humor me for once. He grinned as he watched her flush, saying, don't worry, I still haven't forgotten our date after the trip, said Chan. When Eva gave up trying to strike him and turned to leave, he finally said, good night. She bowed to his back and said, yes good night Naruto. Sama. Eva's room and Naruto's, so I guess we'll have to sleep in the same room, won't we Eva Chan? Master, your futon is ready and I have a blood pack for you. She left the threat hanging, saying, thank you Chachimaru. Listen here Foxy, Chachimaru will be awake all night if you try something then. Naruto responded with an exaggerated gasp, I would never. What kind of person do you think I am? The problem is that I don't know. What's with that student of yours anyway? Setsuna. Chan? Well, she is my first subordinate. You marked her? Naruto smirked and said, yes, she's very powerful, isn't she? He flashed his teeth at her, saying, you can have that kind of power too. At what cost, demon? He concealed his teeth and smiled foxily at her. He relaxed and started to nod off, saying, just enjoy the trip for now. We'll talk pleasantries when we get back to the academy. Master, the anxious Chachimaru said. I know Cha-Cha, it's just the power and the freedom he promises. I understand, Master. She was aware of her master's desire for freedom and the authority that was taken away from her by the person who had turned her. The temptation was strong. She looked at Naruto and thought, but if he tries anything that would harm my master. Naruto thought, hey. Didn't think that machines could release killing intent. He entered the realm of dreams after saying, this is going to be more fun than I expected. The birds chirped joyfully and freely atop the trees as the sun rose peacefully across the sky. For a demon lord inside, the same could not be said. Evangeline A.K. McDowell moved a lot while she slept, which is something that no one knew about her. As if that weren't awful enough, she was also extremely needy, and at the time, there was only one object on the floor of the room that she could cling to. Well, I didn't think my life would end like this. I always imagined that I would be fighting against thousands of foes on the battlefield with my wives by my side. The figure by the door was asked, hey, why didn't you stop her from moving over to me? She said to stop you moving to her, nothing about the other way around. It's time to wake up, Eva Chan. Yeah, well, she's not going to think of it that way. Maybe we might as well make the most of this. The only answer he received was, as Eva tucked herself further into his chest. Come on Eva Chan, we have to get ready to go. That's adorable. Just a little longer, Nagi. When he noticed that Chachimaru was going to move to wake her, he said, ooh, now this I have to know about. I don't think that she would appreciate you waking her at the moment. Chachimaru felt torn. She believed that Naruto would, as the other students would say, freak out when he woke up, and her master would handle the situation when she awoke. However, he hadn't, and she believed that her master was unintentionally providing personal information to the enemy. He was right when he said that her master would not be grateful for the wake-up call because she had previously done it without her consent and suffered the consequences. For the first time in her life, she was doubting her capacity to manage the circumstance. She concluded that the best course of action was to observe. If he went too far, she would intervene. Upon witnessing Chachimaru's retreat, Naruto began to devise his strategy. Well, I could. No, should I? If you get up I'll give you a kiss. No, oh to hell with it, she seems to like this Nagi, and it looks like all I'll be able to get is how much she likes him. She took notice of that. She began to approach his face and gazed at him through half-closed eyes. Then she kissed him and said, "Nah, gi. Oh shish. I didn't think she'd really do it." He wanted to stop, but her strength took him by surprise. He kissed her back and said, "Well, I've lived a good life." Eva was thinking in the meantime. Nagi-san. She raised her hands to his hair and started to stroke it. She put her hands to his ears and said, "His hair is soft." She kissed him repeatedly, saying, "And his ears are so fluffy." Insert scratch from the record. After breaking the kiss, she turned to face the person beneath her and fervently hoped that it wasn't the person she had assumed it was. However, Kami was it. Looking up at her, unsure of what to do, Naruto simply raised a hand and spoke in a halting tone, "Good morning." The room of Nodoka. All of a sudden, a bobble head doll that resembled Negi began to shake violently as Nodoka was getting ready to ask him to hang out with her today. She started to look around after feeling a powerful vibration. What was that? "Hey Nodoka, time for breakfast." With a determined expression on her face, she dressed and walked out of the room, saying, "Oh okay, I'll be right there." Going back to Naruto was afraid of very few things. In fact, he could only think of two. The first, which was ramen being mistreated or discontinued, was deemed foolish by everyone else. The second, which he believed was feasible because he had never allowed anything to happen to ramen, was far more serious. It was dealing with or infuriating a woman like the one he was currently facing. He then realized that one of the worst things he could do was to enrage a woman. This is as bad as the time I threatened Enko that I'd ban all the dango from Konoha. His back was against the wall, keeping as far away from the furious vampire as possible. Now Eva-chan, consider what would happen if someone came in here and saw the dead body of a teacher. The only response he received verbally was, "Raa." He barely avoided the blow she threw at his head. Regarding the new hole in the wall, he said, "I am not paying for that." One more hole and punch. Although he believed that would be going too far, Naruto could have used the seal to render her helpless to stop her. "I was at fault. But I must put an end to this." He was hurled to the wall, where he left an imprint after saying, "Eva-chan, let's sit and talk about this before the time passes and we lose the chance to go on our date, I mean." Fortunately, the wall held up. "Cha-cha." The response was, "Yes master." "Get me my clothes." She hurried to the side to retrieve what she requested, saying, "Right away master." If you ever pull something like that again I'll kill you. Slowly, understand?" Painfully, Naruto answered, "Perfectly." Eva then proceeded to the room's adjoining bathroom. However, Naruto thought to himself, that was a good kiss though. Eva came to a halt. His reaction was a chair to the face. "I said that out loud, didn't I?" "Yup." He landed face first after peeling off the wall. What a wonderful way to begin the day. After breakfast, the hotel's courtyard was a crowded mess. Everyone seemed to want to go with their own group, including Negi. Eventually, the young teacher was claimed by Nodoka's group after a sudden outburst calmed everyone down. Naruto, wearing a bandage over his head, said, "Didn't think she had it in her. Anyway, where do you want to go today, Eva-chan?" "Didn't think you'd actually keep your promise." She was wearing white stockings up to her knees and a casual white sundress with lots of frills lining the bottom edge. On her back, a large white sun hat hung from a string around her neck. Chachimaru was behind her, holding a white sun umbrella while donning a scaled down version of her master's outfit. The same design, but without the frills. "I have to at least be trusted when it comes to keeping my promises. Very nice outfit by the way, both of you." She took in his appearance and blushed at the compliment, saying, "Yay, because I'm sure as hell not going to trust you to be alone with me in a room ever again." His muscular legs were flaunted by the white shorts he wore. His rippling muscles were outlined by a white shirt with a black flower print that seemed too small for him. With his hair cascading from the sides, he wore a white bucket hat that matched the print on his shirt. Does he have muscle? What makes his hair appear smoother than mine? A suggestive smile appeared on his face as he said, You're still talking about that. How was I supposed to know that you would attack me in my sleep? If you wanted to do things like that you should have woke me. It's much better if both parties are willing and ready." Her face was bright red, and everyone who saw her could see a tiny trickle of blood coming from her nose. Her mouth was open, but she was unable to speak. As he made his way to Negi, he said, "I see I shall prepare later today for the activities we shall be participating in later tonight." Negi at the sound of his name. He Negi-san. "I was wondering if you would allow me, Eva-chan and Setsuna-chan to separate from the group to go on a little date." The other girls were thinking out loud while Setsuna, who was standing close to Negi, was now flushed. Eva and Setsuna. Wow, to think Naruto. Sensei has only been here a few days and he's already gotten the two coldest girls in class. He moves fast. Setsuna is so lucky. Of course Eva would get the new hottie. Does that mean that we can go out with Negi? Sensei too? Oh yeah, maybe. Negi was frantically attempting to explain to Naruto that it wasn't appropriate to date students as well as to calm the students who were about to tear him apart for various reasons. Relax Negi boy, I was just joking. You know I'm supposed to personally take care of Eva Chan and I need Setsuna to help me out with something. It's not going to be anything like what you're thinking. Maybe. Eva finally came in and used peanut butter to get rid of her fantasies about the blonde in the middle of the night. You're scaring the boy, idiot. She was still blushing a little, though. It's nothing like that, me and my chaperone grumble. Here are just going to go sightseeing. W. What about Sakurazaki-san? Leaning down, Naruto spoke in a voice that was only audible to Negi. Negi nodded and said, I said last night she was my apprentice, right? Negi appeared a little let down that he wouldn't be learning anything. Naruto noticed this and straightened out. Well, I'm going to go out today and teach her some things. I'll teach you when we get back to the academy, okay? Negi said with a sympathetic nod and a smile. Good, come on Setsuna. Chan, Eva, Chan. Yes, Shisho. Naruto abruptly stopped as he started to leave with Setsuna and Eva. What's wrong, Fox? Reaching into his pocket, he turned around and made his way back to the other students, saying, I almost forgot. He paused, kneeled in front of Kanoka, and pulled out a small box. Kanoka. Chan, I wanted to give you this as a thanks for showing me around when I got here. Also think of it as a promise from me for the future. He opened the package. Do you accept? A stunning silver necklace featuring an angel was visible to all. The rest had dreamy faces, a couple were furious, and most of the others appeared perplexed. ISN Naruto. Sensei Propo. Po. Sing to Kanoka. Those who knew Naruto would tell you that he liked to surprise people, really surprise people, but many would question his timing, saying that popping the question in the middle of the street wasn't really done. What are you s? Saying Naruto. Kun. Everyone thought she was the only one who failed to notice her words. At this, Naruto grinned. He looked at Negi, who initially intended to stop him, but changed his mind after he stated that the headmaster was okay with it. I already oked with your grandfather. I still want to go on some dates to get to know you better, but I want to give you this so you and I both know that the other won't leave for someone else. He was now frantically trying to refute what Naruto was saying with his arms. Kanoka was stunned for the first time in a long time. However, Naruto chose to make fun of her. I understand Kanoka. You don't want to be with someone as normal as me. You deserve a prince that can provide for you. You deserve someone good looking, not average like me. Did you just look in a mirror? Everyone and everything in his immediate vicinity screamed in their heads as they gazed at him. Most people, especially women, thought he was ideal. Even though it was painful for them to consider it, the men had to acknowledge that he was attractive. After being informed that their pet fish ran away, Naruto got up and started to leave, his head lowered as if someone had kicked his kittens. Since fish cannot run, it did not flee. At last, Kanoka emerged from her stump, and he turned the corner. As she chased after him, she exclaimed, Naruto-kun, wait. Is the kun still with you? Naruto was gone by the time she reached the corner. She was closely followed by the others. Where did he go? Even those who had received training were unable to sense the blonde's presence. Because of the seal and Setsuna's mental connection to him, only Eva was aware that he was still alive. Naruto-kun, please. I accept. What was the primary idea that everyone was thinking about? Because Naruto wasn't present, some people commented that this was both tragic and romantic. Her justification was straightforward. It was merely a promise rather than a formal proposal, and he was among the suitors closest to her in age. In addition, he was among the most attractive men she had ever seen. I know. Now what's everyone looking at? For what seemed like an eternity, there was silence. As they slowly turned their heads, they noticed Naruto behind Kanoka, putting the necklace around her neck and scanning her to see what lay ahead. He inquired, is it the road? Kanoka knocked him on the side of the head abruptly after he said, I don't see anything all that special about it. He rubbed his spot and said, hey, you're my fiancé, now I can't have you making me sad without being punished. Fiancé. Naruto gave a suggestive grin. He whispered the final line loud enough for everyone to hear. Oh, I didn't know you were like that. I think I'd like getting punished by you though, Kanoka. Sama. As they fantasized about placing themselves in one of the two positions for the punishment, most of the people in their immediate vicinity were blown back with nosebleeds. He brought his lips to Kanoka's, who was blushing wildly and ready to strike him again. He waved his hand as he left, saying, "There, now it's sealed. See you later, Kanoka-chan." Kanoka was grinning dreamily, and the only sound anyone could hear was the wind blowing by. Negi attempted, and for once was successful, to regain control of his remaining students. "Hey. Alright, let's get going everyone, we don't want to let the day go by." Everyone was still discussing what had happened and moving around as they had before. "I'm so happy for them, she didn't even drink from the marriage fall. I'm so jealous. Naruto is so romantic." Feeling even more driven, Nodoka remarked, "I have to try hard too." Though they were still imagining what it would be like to be Kanoka, Mana and Kaide thought, respectively, "How did he get behind us? He's fast." Eva. Setsuna, weren't you two going to go with Naruto, sensei?" Eva, despite her refusal to acknowledge it, was just waking up from her fantasy when Naruto appeared on a dragon and proposed to her, while Setsuna had just finished cleaning the blood from her nose. She shouted, "Hey, wait up, you idiot fox." Now she was determined to get that doll, taking in the sights. With regret, Setsuna thought, Naruto. Sama. Training Ground 02, also known as Random Clearing Naruto. When Naruto arrived at the training ground first, he took care to stay ahead of the two. As he was speaking to Setsuna, he created 10 clones with pre-programmed instructions to covertly lay traps throughout the clearing. "It's time to begin the training, training," he tried to persuade himself. Setsuna arrived at the clearing first and stood at attention right away. Not so much, Eva. She walked languidly, as if it was a waste of her time, with Chachimaru right behind her, and it was to her. "Can we get going? I want to visit as many shrines as I can till noon." "Patience, Eva. Chan, I'd think a vampire such as yourself would have this in abundance." She did, as evidenced by her nearly flawless tea ceremonies. However, this was her first trip to Mahura in years, and since she was unsure of when she would return, she wanted to make the most of her time there. "Unless I accept his offer." He flashed his teeth at her as though he could read her thoughts. He commanded, "Setsuna. Chan, come here." She stepped in front of him quickly and said, "Yes, Shisho." He looked at her and said, "No, this won't do." She felt self-conscious right away. What had she done wrong? Did she not know how to speak to him? Did she? When he raised her hand, she stopped. Eva was grinning to the side because she believed he was going to reprimand her, which somehow made her feel good about herself. "You." He flicked her forehead as she flinched and he brought his hand down. "Are too serious and way too tense." He grinned. "Although it will feel that way after today, I told you that I'm not like your last teachers. Well, move at your pace, so don't be thinking I'm going to put you into a den of wolves." Setsuna was reminded once more of the differences between learning from her new master. On her first day under her former one, she was forced to engage in full force combat with the more experienced pupils in order to determine her position. Eva, however, was a little let down because she had been anticipating the wolves, but she was unsure of the reason. He took a seat in front of her and said, "For the time being, I want you to sit down and try to access your new energy. I'm sure you have tried this before, correct?" She grinned. "How did it go?" It took her a minute to compose her thoughts. "In comparison to my previous energy, it was difficult to control. Like instead of turning off and on a faucet, I was trying to fill a cup of water with a waterfall." She clarified. "Not only that, but I also noticed that though I didn't have much more than I used to, I could do more with what I had." Naruto nodded in anticipation. Conversely, Eva was unsure of the precise topic she was discussing. Thus, the energy is thicker and her control is shot. "Not very impressive so far, Fox." She cast a sidelong glance at Chachimaru to make sure she was understanding everything. She nodded slightly in agreement. Naruto chose to demonstrate to her why chakra was so unique after noticing what she was thinking. He asked while looking through some hand seals. He finished the chain and slammed his hand on the floor, saying, "Okay, Setsu-chan, I want you to release all of the energy you can." The slight breeze that was blowing by abruptly stopped, and the sounds of the people around them were muffled. What was that Shisho? He allowed it to sit into each of the 3 heads present and explained, "It's a technique that stops all energy and sound from escaping the area that it encompasses. Now whenever you're ready, Seta-chan." With a nod, Setsuna raised her hands in the seal he had taught her. After a few moments of focused attention, Eva's world collapsed. She was shocked by the incredible amount of energy, which was far less than her own but still managed to surprise her. She was aware that she would need to be extra careful going forward if she and Setsuna got into a fight. She was perspiring a little, and this energy wasn't even focused on her. By her side, Chachimaru was analyzing the energy and determining the degree of danger. Her sensors only indicated that the energy was in fact similar to what her master uses. Threat level: minimal. She was sure that she and her master could neutralize Setsuna if she was by herself. They could take her separately even if they were by themselves, but with a little difficulty. As she examined Setsuna, he had moved to her side and asked, "So what do you think, Eva-chan? And this is with only the tip, so to speak. I'll be showing some of the techniques that could only be used with this energy." He laughed. "Reel it in, Setsuna-chan." After a moment of struggle, the energy she had released returned. Somehow, she was still concerned, as if she lacked the energy to beg. How was that Shisho make an impression on her master? He was initially apprehensive but ultimately chose to show her the shadow clone because the benefits greatly outweighed the drawbacks. "That was great, Setsuna-chan. It's understandable that you don't have control over your energy at this point, but the amount of energy you have is perfect for the technique that I'm going to teach you today." He waited until Setsuna and Eva were both leaning forward. "The first technique you are going to learn will be the most practical by far. It's the..." He grinned and waited for ahs and oohs, but he didn't get any. "Shadow clone. Hey, what's the deal?" Both appeared a little let down, but Eva appeared a little arrogant as she answered. She made one appear behind her without thinking, saying, "Clones are one of the more basics in the magical world." At last, she believed he had one up on him. Someone with even the tiniest amount of training can make one. However, Naruto could see why they were both smirking and doubtful. How many clones can you make at 100%? Eva paused to reflect. As if she were the best in the world, she thought, about 3,800 at a time. Setsuna appeared impressed as well. Naruto casually said, "I can easily make a couple thousand on an off day." Eva's and Setsuna's eyes widened. "Now, what happens when your clones die, for the lack of better word?" Eva remarked, "Nothing, they just cease to exist." After creating a clone, Naruto faced Chachimaru. He asked everyone present, and they all nodded in agreement. "If what you say is true, then if my clone goes with Chachimaru here, I will have no recollection of what happened, correct?" He asked. "I want you to go into the woods and tell my clone something. Eva-chan's favorite color. If I'm right, you know the clone will disperse itself then." Chachimaru asked her master for approval, and after she nodded, they departed. After a short while, Chachimaru returned by himself. When he remained silent, she questioned, "What was the point of that fox?" Not surprising that your favorite color would be red. Setsuna awaited confirmation that the expressions on the other two people's faces were sufficient. "How?" Eva was unable to comprehend. "It's not like he cared." "Well, he didn't. I dunno, I never really tried to figure it out. You know, don't look a gift horse in the mouth and all that. If you can see how this will come in hand, then you would see that it is one of the most useful techniques out there." Eva could see how that would be beneficial and that she could read while training. There were countless options. He took a moment to process the information before continuing, saying, "This will make your training in the more practical areas much easier. While you train your body, they can work on things like control." He took out a scroll and handed it to her, saying, "The techniques that I'm going to teach you have the need for hand seals like your spells need incantations. This scroll contains all of the hand seals and a few basic control exercises. The hand seal for the shadow clone is easy, it's just crossing your fingers and putting out the energy needed to make them." He told her that. "Go ahead and try it." Yes. After positioning her hands and directing the energy, she discovered that there were 20 more Setsuna clones in the area. I did it." Patting her head, he smiled and said, "Good job, Setsu-chan." She grinned and flushed. At the two, Eva was ablaze with envy and jealousy. How come it can't be me? He decided it would be best to end things since he could tell she was angry. "Okay, I'm going to leave an enforced clone here with you to oversee the rest of your training." Despite her disappointment, Setsuna understood that her master had to leave in person. "I'll be back to pick you up later today, okay?" She gave a nod. After creating the clone, Naruto visited Eva. Naruto started to leave the clearing and made his way to its edge, asking, "Shall we go, Eva-chan?" Eva couldn't resist turning around and grinning triumphantly at Setsuna, as if she had won something she desired and excluded her. For the most part, it worked. In the city, at Eva's insistence, they were walking to a temple. The demon lord remarked, "What you did to Setsuna-chan, Eva-chan, wasn't very nice." "I don't know what you're talking about, Fox. Of course not." When they arrived at the temple, they took in all of its attractions. Actually, they looked more like Naruto, and Eva and Chachimaru told him what they were. "If I didn't know any better, I'd say that you've been here before." Eva had a distant expression. "I was, a long time ago." This made Naruto feel even more entitled to treat her to a good time. Lunch, they finally made the decision that it was time to eat after touring what felt like an endless number of temples. or, in Eva's case, drink. With her teeth dangling from his neck, she said, "You know Eva Chan, if you really wanted some blood you could have asked me instead of just jumping me." She attempted to exit with the words, "Muf mu ma fa fo." "Don't speak with your mouth full, Eva Chan." Eva moved away from his neck. "Why is your blood so good?" "I don't know. Maybe I'm just that awesome. The truth is, Negi Sensei, is that I really like you. Since the day we met, I love you." Whoa, I really didn't think that Nodoka had it in her. "What do you think, Eva Chan? Think you can ever be that honest with me?" She blushed and hid behind a bush to watch the show, saying, "Don't be stupid." She practically screamed everything she said. "I know that it's troublesome for you. We're student and teacher after. All I wanted to tell you how I feel." She bowed and sprinted toward Naruto and Eva, saying, "Excuse me, Sensei." She heard a faint voice as she went by them. "Good job." She turned to see Naruto smiling slightly and waving at her. She had to return the smile. "He fox the boy, it looks like he's going to blow." Negi was leaning back to faint when he glanced over. Eva and Chachimaru followed slowly, but he hurried over and caught him before he hit the ground. If he passes out after being confessed to, how does he plan on handling the enemies that are going to come after him? Asuna asked, "Naruto Sensei, is he okay?" "He's fine, he's just in shock. Can you take him back to the hotel?" "Yay, yes Sensei. Let's go Eva Chan, stupid boya." Later, in a dining establishment, Naruto and Eva went to get him some food after the dramatic confession. After following the sweet scent of ramen, he decided on a restaurant. When he looked up after finishing his third bowl, Eva was looking at him with a fierce expression. He grinned at her blush and said, "If you want to kiss me, I won't stop you." She collected herself and started to explain herself, saying, "Shut up, Fox. Why don't you just tell me what the price of getting the mark is?" He paused to think, "How did you like our date? I guess it wouldn't hurt." It's not a date, you bloody fox." "You didn't answer." "I guess it wasn't the worst thing that ever happened. It was actually the most fun I've had in a long time." How would you like to go on a date like this again? How would you like to wake up in the morning like you did today?" As she considered what had transpired, she flushed. "What's your point?" He grinned. "The one that I mark will either be my slave for all eternity or my mate." Chachimaru arrived with tea for the two of them and asked, "So that samurai? As the vampire put it, is she your slave or?" "I haven't told her, she'll have to decide what she wants." Eva didn't believe him when she asked, "You'd give her the choice?" "Naturally, a willing slave is preferable to one who will doubt your every order, and as a demon lord, I will require numerous wives, in accordance with the demon code that the Kyuubi left in my mind." Power and freedom from that seal, is it worth it? Eva asked herself, contemplating the temptation to have the power he had promised, now that she was aware of the cost. What would it mean to be your servant? She detested herself for even considering it, but there weren't many ways she could break free from the seal. He narrowed his eyes slightly to prevent Setsuna from arguing, saying, "You say that like I would give you the same choice that I would give Setsuna. I wouldn't accept you as my slave. You mean I'd have to be a spouse, partner, or mate? You are undoubtedly one of the strongest women in Mahura, and I do think that anyone in the world would be hard-pressed to take you on," he said, giving her a moment to reflect. "I need women like that." "So because of my strength you want me?" Eva blushed at the compliment. Naruto grinned. "Well, that and the fact that you look cute in this form and hot in your adult form have something to do with it as well." She continued to blush. "It's getting late and I have to go get Setsuna Chan and take her to the hotel." "Is she unable to return by herself?" Eva frowned as she spoke. "I'd actually be surprised if she could still walk with the training she went through." "Was the training really that difficult?" He gave a cryptic response and turned to leave, saying, "You'll see." "What's left of training ground?" Eva's eyes widened as she stepped into the clearing and asked, "Was there a war here of what?" After the clone he had previously created dispersed, Naruto informed her, looks like she made it to level 2 though." The trees along the side appeared to have been violently taken down and splintered into near nothingness, and there were deep cuts from a sword in the center, some of which appeared too clean to have been made by anything human or even demon made, and holes in the ground that were still smoldering from a recent explosion. "Just level 2. How many of them?" 50. He started to approach the lone figure in the center of the clearing, but she won't be going through any past 10 for a while. 50. Naruto used a diagnostic jutsu to examine his pupil and ran through some hand seals when he arrived in Setsuna. "I never thought I'd be glad that the old bat taught me some of these medical abilities," Naruto said. He would occasionally play practical jokes to keep things interesting when missions were slow and he had nothing to do. That is, until the dreaded 6th Hokage decided he needed a new pastime, dragged him into her office or the hospital, sat him down, and taught him what she could. Which wasn't much until he managed to get away. Ah, good times. Good times. Now, he felt over her body, identifying the areas that required attention. Internal bleeding, broken ribcage, torn ligaments, and a concussion to top things off. He was muttering. He was even more impressed when he noticed that she was still wielding her sword. A pretty good training session if I do say so myself, and I do. Eva humped in abruptly. What are you talking about, you idiot? She could die if we don't do something. Chachimaru administer first aid on her, Eva sighed. After saying, yes master, Chachimaru went to work. Despite her inability to acknowledge it, she was concerned about the samurai. As she considered joining the Demon Lord, she took comfort in the knowledge that she wouldn't be surrounded by strangers, even if this is how he trains his students. She seemed to be able to relate to the headmaster's granddaughter and the samurai, at least because they were in the same class. If you were to treat them like this, then. What were you thinking? Damage like this is serious. If she dies, then what will you do? Huh? I don't think that the headmaster would be pleased to hear that one of his dear students was killed from what you call level 2 training. Neither would the boya for that matter. She called out to him. Mean as he used one of his fingers to clean out his ear. Master, even with the first aid I gave her, she won't survive without proper medical treatment if something isn't done with these kinds of injuries. Chachimaru bandaged what she could from the wounds, but based on what she saw, the wounds were too severe to be fixed with that alone. She almost started crying when she considered the demon that created her. You see, how could you be so irresponsible? She could die and you don't even look worried for your supposed apprentice. I should have finished you when you first got to Mahora. You demons are all the same, just toying with people's lives, not caring about the end result. Chachimaru nodded, picked up Setsuna, and started to leave. Take her to the nearest hospital, Chachimaru, while I go back to the hotel with this poor excuse of a teacher and report him to the headmaster. After she mentioned that Naruto was a demon, he had his head lowered and his hair cast a shadow over his eyes. He was aware of who he was and that he was powerless to alter it. He didn't really mind when she referred to him as a demon rather than the current fox because, in a way, she didn't mean it. She had evoked memories that shouldn't have been there, though, by saying it the same way the villagers back home had. His very identity, his Nindo, had been insulted by her. As Eva was speaking, Setsuna had somewhat regained consciousness and, recognizing his anguish, struggled with Chachimaru to break free. Naruto. Sama. She moved away from Chachimaru and drew her sword, pointing it between Chachimaru and Eva, saying, D.do not speak of Naruto. Sama that way. Naruto was gradually relaxing, and one of his eyes was now fixed on Setsuna. How can you defend him? He put you in this condition. He's nothing but a backstabbing demon. Abruptly, the training ground was hit by a surge of energy. They were surrounded by an unnatural wind that swirled until it focused on Naruto. He soon joined the wind with red energy and started growling out loud. His glasses dropped to the ground as he untangled his hair, which was still hiding his eyes. Setsuna was shifting to his side as quickly as her wounds would allow. She barely managed to stand on what was now pure wool as she came to him and stood by his side, still pointing her sword at Eva and Chachimaru. Naruto.Sam. ROAAR. Naruto unleashed another burst of energy so powerful that Eva would have been sent flying had Chachimaru not been holding her down at the moment, but Setsuna, who was in awe of her master's strength, was unaffected. Away from the field, while strolling down the street, Akunoichi and Amiko were discussing their new sensei. Mana argued from the side of exterminating demons, saying, I'm telling you, we should be careful around him. He's a demon and he don't know when he will strike. In fact, I say that we team up and take him out as soon as possible. We also don't know if he will strike. He seems like a nice person and the headmaster trusts him, so it should be fine. Degazaru. Kaide responded with doubt. He should not be persecuted for simply being a demon, in her opinion. Setsuna is part demon from what you've told me, and you don't make a move against her. Fine, but if something happens that involves taking him out, you have to help me for free. Mana and Kaide had previously worked together and developed a romantic relationship. If you scratch my back, I'll give you a share of the pay. She therefore greatly appreciates the young ninja's input. They both halted and turned to face each other. Ah, don't be like that. For once, Kaide's eyes were open, and she turned to face the source of the sudden demonic energy leak. They would have missed it if it had been farther away, but it was there. Looks like it's time to get to work, Degorazu. Mana said, let's go, and continued, at the training field again. Eva was scrambling to come up with a plan. She wasn't so confident that she could defeat someone with her level of strength. She was aware that even with Chachimaru's assistance, she could only slow him down to a maximum extent, and the seal he put in place prevented her from sending for assistance. She felt 2 new energy signatures entering the containment that the blonde had set up, and she said, "Damnable seals, they always in my way." Perfect, the ninja and Miko were likely alerted by a leak of his energy. All I need to do is wait. What's wrong, demon? Did I strike a nerve? It seems your servant there is loyal as they come. You told me that was all she was to you, right? No wonder you don't care if she dies. A servant is always replaceable, right? Suddenly, Setsuna felt conflicted. Did her master truly believe that was all she was? Naruto understood what Eva was attempting to do, but he also knew it wouldn't succeed. Don't listen, she is one that is blind to us in all but fear and hate. I do not see you as a slave but as a partner and perhaps more. He only desired friends, family, and lovers. He had no interest in the relationship of master and slave. But what of Kanoka? Ojou, Sama, you and her are now Enga. I am the Kyuubi no Yoko, the lord of Makai and leader of the Biju. I am too, by the code of demons, take more than one mate, and I would never take one with anything other than love. You have the same necklace that I gave Kanoka. Chan after all. Recalling its function and the fact that it was the same necklace he had given Kanoka, Setsuna seized the one he had given her. She grinned and said, "Thank you, Naruto." Sama. As the pain from her injuries returned, her knees failed her and she fell to the ground. I'm sorry, Naruto. Sama, but I've reached my limit. She was upset with herself for not being able to assist her master when he needed her. Just as Naruto was ready to assist her, he saw 2 more energy signatures appear on a different area of the clearing. How could I have missed them until now? Kaide and Mana observed the circumstances. It was not good for Naruto to see a wounded and bleeding Setsuna by his side. After evaluating his strength, they realized that neither of them could defeat him. They nodded as they turned to face Eva. She gave them a nod in return and accompanied Chachimaru to them. Kaide was the first to speak when she got to them. What's going on? Uzumaki is a demon and was trying to pass off nearly killing the girl as training. I tried to get Chachimaru to take her to the hospital. She refused and went to defend the demon, she summarized. Mana thought aloud, she's obviously under an illusion of his. They obeyed her orders and attacked Chachimaru, taking aim. Something like that. You two and I shall attack from afar. Cha-Cha will keep the demon busy. The samurai won't be able to move anytime soon. Chachimaru responded positively, saying, Cha-Cha, don't hold back, go for a kill when you can. Setsuna was struggling to stand and was on her last legs. He spoke to her just as she was ready to order her master to flee. As he ran up to meet Chachimaru, he started to send her the energy, saying, I'm going to give you my energy to heal you. Stay down like you're still injured and wait for them to get close before you strike. He sent one of his own punches after dodging the first one that was thrown at him. She flew back when he struck her in the stomach. After that, he focused on giving Setsuna more of his energy until he heard a sound piercing the atmosphere. He barely avoided the flying kunai, only momentarily startled, and then launched one of his own in the same direction, only to have Kaide avoid them. Then he heard a crack and leapt aside to escape the bullets that kept coming and pierced the tree behind him. So you finally show your true colors, demon. You almost had me going with the speech you gave me at the school. Did you put the headmaster under an illusion too? It seems like it's the only way he'd have let you into the school. Before hurrying her, he growled, you're just as blind as the rest of them. He is now oblivious to everything. Setsuna, meanwhile, felt someone land next to her, signaling that she was finally well enough to join the battle. In order to dispel any illusions, Kaide pulled out some incense that Mana had given her. Don't worry, Degazaru. This'll snap you out of the illusion he placed you under. After lighting it, she let it work. Suddenly, a sword was aimed at her neck, and she had to dodge it. She was aware from experience that it always worked, so she asked, it didn't work. As she swung her sword once more, Setsuna exclaimed, of course not, Naruto. Sama doesn't need to place me under an illusion or spell, I follow my future mate willingly. Kaide used a kunai to block the sword. So you weren't under a spell. I know that Sakurazaki Dono wouldn't join forces with a demon, so you must be a fake, Degorazu. Therefore I must eliminate you. When Eva noticed Setsuna fighting, she was chanting a spell. Then she remembered Naruto's comment about her muscles healing more quickly. She was practically dead. How is she able to? She was about to order everyone to stop when she noticed Naruto frantically rushing Mana, saying, the wounds were enough to kill a normal person, not a demonically powered one. Gosh, he's gone crazy. Mana was struggling to keep up. She had almost run out of bullets and her side was bleeding from one of Naruto's attacks. She was looking around when she noticed Kaide fighting Setsuna, and she thought, where is Kaide? She should have broken the illusion by now. Oh no, did it fail? She knew that the only way she could have recovered so fast was if someone had healed her, And she also knew that neither Kaide nor she, Eva, or Chachimaru could have healed to that degree. How is she moving around? Even a half demon would be hard-pressed with the injuries she had. That implied that it must be. He went crazy because of shit in me. Damn, I need to stop this. She ducked another blow, but she was too slow to avoid the knee he threw at her in the stomach. Grah! Naruto, who was unable to keep up with her speed, appeared directly above her and was ready to push her to the ground when he was struck from the side and sent flying. Chachimaru seized Mana and placed her on the ground. She heard Eva's voice just as she was ready to rush Naruto once more. Eva was rushing to their position as she gave the order. Cha-cha change of plans, try to subdue him without killing him. Chachimaru nodded and hurried over to her, as she saw. Naruto was about to jam a claw into her master when Chachimaru arrived just in time. She punched him in the face after pushing his hand away. He made no movement at all. The energy levels are red. High levels of damage were sustained. 5 minutes is the estimated time before shutting down. His first hit nearly killed her. It didn't seem like much, but it sent her hurtling through innumerable trees, some of which punctured her armor skin. Master, I do not have much time before I have to enter recovery mode. Damn it, Eva mused. Additionally, Mana was on her last. Even though she still had all of her energy, it would not be sufficient. She began chanting, "Give me a minute, Chachimaru, do what you can. If I can encase him in ice like I did when we first fought, we may have a chance." A couple of minutes prior, Setsuna's circumstances were dire. She was not an exception to the rule that ninjas, who are samurai's natural enemies, had the upper hand. In addition to the fact that her opponent had an abundance of shadow clones and she lacked the chakra to create even one, Kaide's moves were too swift and erratic for her to successfully counter. She believed that this was a benefit. All she needed to do was track down the real one and strike her with everything she had left. They can't really do that much damage though. Kaide was at a loss for what to think. She was unsure whether or not to deliver the final move because this imposter moved and fought like the Sakurazaki. Dono she knew. She steeled herself and was ready to move and act when she heard her say, "She's starting to find weaknesses in my moves, I have to act quickly." Shinryu rock-splitting sword. Setsuna recognized the real one when she noticed that one of the alleged clones was standing far behind the others. With everything at her disposal, she launched what might have been her final attack. When the clone dispersed, she felt it connect and believed she had won. She felt something pierce her chest and looked down to see a kunai protruding from where her heart was. Damn it. There, Kaide said, letting the body fall to the ground and driving out all of her clones. Now the demon imposter will reveal its true form. Then she waited for the spell of the imposter to wear off and reveal its true appearance. After a short while, the alleged imposter was still posing as Setsuna. By now, it ought to have worn off, unless... No, she pulled out the kunai, hurried to the body, and turned it around. When she noticed the blood starting to collect around it, she knew it wasn't a trick. She broke down in tears and started shaking the body, saying, "No, no it can't be. Sakurazaki. Dono Sakurazaki. Oh, open your eyes. Dono Sakurazaki. Sakurazaki. Dono." She was rocking back and forth and holding Setsuna to her chest while sobbing uncontrollably. Eva and everyone else face down on the ground. Chachimaru was finally using up all of her remaining energy to restrain Naruto. Master. She was able to leave before she shut down entirely. When Eva had completed her incantation, she was ready to attack. Sakurazaki. Dono. Everyone was stopped by Kaide's shout. The first people to notice Kaide rocking a body back and forth were Eva and Mana. "Damn it, I should have told them she was his follower," Eva said, smelling the blood. She saw Naruto charging at her and prepared her spell before yelling, "Idiot fox. Your student is about to die, shouldn't you be trying to help her?" Naruto was just a few feet away from her when she was ready to attack, and it appeared as though it had finally sunk into his head. After turning his head in the direction from which the yell had come, Naruto glanced back at Eva and saw Setsuna lying on the ground, bleeding out, and his students and friends in her place, one by one, flashing through his mind. She realized that he would never do anything to harm his student after seeing the desperation, rage, and sadness in his eyes, and for the first time in years, she felt a great sense of regret. She paused when he vanished, and then she noticed him standing beside Kaide and Setsuna. She turned to face Mana, who met her gaze, and then she turned to face Chachimaru. Mana nodded in comprehension, slowly stood up, and walked over to where Cha-Cha was. Eva spun around and started running in Naruto's and the other two's direction. When Naruto emerged behind Kaide, still in his fox form, he saw her crying uncontrollably and decided that at least she would be forgiven. "She's still alive. If she were dead, I'd know." Leave the rest to me, he said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. Kaide put Setsuna's head down and allowed Naruto to push him aside. Naruto started working on Setsuna right away, putting his energy into her. The wound was healing, but not enough, and if he gave her more of his energy, it would cause more harm than good. How is she doing? Eva, who had a reputation as a kind of guardian for Mahora and didn't mind recent events, was truly concerned for the samurai when she finally made it to them. She was more hurt than she had anticipated to see a student from the same school as Setsuna. She is steady, but, as she is, she won't make it. Fearing that her first subordinate and one of the first to accept him as their mate was dying and that he was powerless to stop it, Naruto asked himself, Is there anyone in the class that could possibly heal her? Anyone? I must. The only one that could even hope to help is the old man's daughter, but she isn't even aware that magic exists. Eva's eyes began to well up with tears as she said, If you can't do anything, then I doubt that anyone in Mahora could. She didn't want to think that someone would perish under her supervision. When Kaide heard Eva say, Then I killed, she didn't want to say it, but then she thought of Negi. What about Negi? Sensei, can't he? Kaide stopped when she saw Eva shake her head. So there's nothing we can do. She was powerless to stop him, and she detested it. He doesn't have the magic or the spells to heal this kind of damage. How could she have been so foolish as to attack him without telling them about the girl? Why couldn't she have waited earlier? When she noticed Naruto standing up with Setsuna in his hands, she stopped her mental tirade. You mentioned that Kanoka-chan could assist, correct? Naruto interrupted her, saying, I said she could, but I also said that she isn't magically aware the headmaster doesn't want her to. With his back to them, he said, The headmaster gave me permission to show her. I'd have liked it to be on something less serious, but he knew that Chachimaru had no choice but to obey Eva's orders, and all three of them recoiled at that, including Mana, who had just arrived carrying Chachimaru on her back. Naruto created a clone with instructions to carry her, and he started to leave the clearing, the clone trailing behind Chachimaru. Kaide said, Can he really, with hope? In response, Mana said, I don't know. As she walked out of the clearing and into the forest, the other two trailed closely behind Eva, who started to follow Naruto. We have to do what we can, she concluded. Away from the hotel, after a long time, and with Setsuna looking worse for wear, Naruto exclaimed, Eva. He knew she didn't have much time. What is it? Throughout the entire journey, she had been consumed by guilt. She was to blame for everything. With Mana and Kaide's clothes in a mess and Kaide's uniform still covered in blood, Naruto said, You are the only one of us that looks somewhat presentable. I need you to go inside and get Kanoka-chan, he said. Try not to let her or anyone else see you go. She nodded and started running in the direction of the hotel, saying, I sense her nearby, so you don't have to worry about going too far. I need you two to keep Negi and Asuna away from Kanoka-chan and me, he said, turning to Kaide and Mana. He put Setsuna on the ground and gave her a gentle pat on the cheek, saying, You're going to be okay. There is no way that they would let her go out alone with Eva. The two nodded and went off to secure a perimeter. A few minutes later, Negi yelled, Where are you taking Kanoka-chan? Naruto heard. Eva shot back, There's not time, Boya, just trust me on this. It's okay, Negi. Sensei. Additionally, she claimed that Sei-chan was in danger. Even if it's a lie, I still have to make sure, Kanoka said to the young magi in a surprisingly firm voice. Asuna attempted to explain it to the now obstinate princess, saying, What if it's a lie, then you'd be a hostage. There's no time, I have to get to. Eva was abruptly joined by two figures. Mana turned to Negi and held out her guns, saying, Get going. We'll hold them off. She allowed Eva and Kanoka to go by, saying, I cannot let you pass, Negi, sensei. What are the two of you doing? I thought you were with us, Mana. Kaide. Asuna glanced at Kaide and widened his eyes. Is that blood? I did something bad, Negi. Sensei, and I'm trying to make up for it. Kaide flinched and hid the stains behind her hands, unable to look at him as she spoke. Then, she steeled herself and looked defiantly at them, saying, To do that I have to keep you from getting near Naruto. Sensei and Kanoka. Dono, I apologize. She never once mentioned Digazaru. Hold on a second. Naruto. Sensei, as in Kitsune Naruto. Sensei, is here? Asuna inquired. Mana chose to clarify, saying, Naruto. Sensei is a demon. We made a mistake and attacked him unprovoked, and because of it Setsuna got hurt, she said after pausing for a moment, and a very strong one at that. Asuna attempted to say, If he hurt her, then why are you? Kaide screamed, It wasn't him. I was the one who. She glanced at her hands and shuddered a little. Negi panicked when he realized the outcome after processing everything he had heard. That blood, it's Sakurazaki. Sans, isn't it? He began to look serious and had a scowl on his face. One of his students was hurt, he had to get to her. I can help, I can. Knowing that this was the only option, Eva eventually returned after leaving Kanoka with Naruto, saying, no you can't Boya. The samurai's wounds are too severe for your magic to heal. Allow the fox to. Let Kitsune take care of this. But she's my student, I have to be there, I have to help. Negi insisted on seeing his pupil. As he took a step forward, he felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up to see Asuna nodding with a serious expression on her face. He yelled softly, the staff trembling in his hand and a tear falling from his eyes. He smiled slightly and turned directly ahead. She was truly impressed by his determination, saying, but we made a promise. Those are some nice eyes you have there, boys. According to Kitsune, what they are doing will be delicate, and we cannot allow anyone to get involved. But I promise you that if something goes wrong, we'll take full responsibility, she said, looking to both sides for Mana and Kaide's confirmation, both of whom nodded. At that moment, a light burst into the sky and a burst of energy arose from behind them. Minutes prior, with Naruto, Kanoka, and Setsuna. Following Eva's departure, Kanoka turned to face Naruto, and her eyes grew wide as she walked in their direction, saying, Naruto. Sensei. It was late, the sun was going down, and the moon was just beginning to peek over the horizon, but Naruto didn't look up and said, Kanoka-chan, I'm sorry to bother you this late. I can't save her. He was drowning in self-pity, feeling as though he had been hit in the head by Orochimaru's removal of his students and was helpless to stop him. I guess I'm really useless. None of that now. You called me here for a reason, right? Kanoka said sternly, my fiancé shouldn't be like this. She turned to Setsuna and said, I'll do whatever I can. You think that I can help save her? With a slight smile, Naruto said, I need you to use your magic to heal her. He was clear that he had made a wise choice in his partner. I don't use magic. There isn't. You do, there is. He paused, carefully selecting his words. Just beyond what you can see is another world. Among the various creatures are vampires, witches, mages, and others. Including, he stood up and stepped back, allowing his tails to spread out. Demons. He paused, saying, not all of us are bad. We just want to live our lives and blend in with society. He glanced at Setsuna and said, some of us because we have to, others because we have something to protect. Kanoka followed his gaze and said, a little incredulously, Chan is. To be more accurate, she is a Han-Yu, a half-demon. He clarified, despite that she is dying. What can I do? Whatever she was to her Setsuna, she was still her Chan, Kanoka knew. Naruto was waiting, expecting her to scream and flee or try to attack him as soon as he revealed that he and Setsuna were demons. Therefore, he was taken aback when she said, you'd help even knowing what we are. Kanoka turned to face him and grinned, saying, of course, no matter what you two are, she is still my Chan and you are still my Naruto. Naruto's eyes spontaneously bled, but he quickly recovered and went to work, saying, I need you to place your hands over her wound after I remove her chest bindings. As he was about to do so, Kanoka blushed. You're a boy and you're here, but, additionally, you're engaged to me. You'll need to accept responsibility, and... After putting a finger to her lips to silence her and pointing to Setsuna's chest, Kanoka instantly grabbed her necklace to make sure it was still there and said, but. I must take several mates, or wives, if you will, because I am a demon lord. For what he believed to be the 100th time that day, he clarified, I'll only take those who love me and I love you. This was surprisingly acceptable to Kanoka, who said, as long as I get to approve of them beforehand it's okay. Dropping perspiration, Naruto said, so you're okay with this? Yup, now let's get to work. Naruto was sweating again. After removing Setsuna's restraints, Kanoka covered the opening in her chest with her hands. Now what? She inquired. Kanoka closed her eyes in concentration as Naruto placed his hands on top of hers and said, I need you to reach inside yourself and pull out the energy you have. Find the place that your energy is and concentrate on that. Then tug at it and attempt to let it go. He had to assist her by directing her to her energy source because he was pressed for time to give a detailed explanation. Pulling the energy out was difficult for her. I can feel it but I can't get it out. Why is it so hard? He saw her struggle to pull at the energy, saying, you have a lot of it, that's why you need to pull at it with all the strength you have. So I was right. He power rivals the Yanbi. With training she could easily give the Gobi a run for its money. A light burst into the sky as her power was suddenly released, and Naruto immediately started to direct that energy into Setsuna's wound, which gradually healed until only a faint scar remained. though even that eventually faded. Kanoka. Shan can be stopped. She is now okay. After battling to regain her energy, Kanoka eventually managed to do so. Did I do good? She questioned blearily. Yes. He held her up and gently placed her down, saying, you saved her life. She said as she fell asleep, good, now we can be a happy family, me say. Shan and Naru. He grinned and said, yeah, we will. He removed his shirt, wrapped it around Setsuna, picked her up in a bridal fashion, and created a clone that did the dame with Kanoka. He arrived at the location where Eva and the others were when Negi and Asuna started asking him a ton of questions. How are you? What happened? Is Setsuna, Kanoka okay? How was she injured? He narrowed his eyes and continued walking, ignoring the questions until he came across Eva, Mana and Kaide in his way. There was a brief period of silence before Eva broke it. Is she okay? She'll be able to move tomorrow, though I think she'll be sore, Naruto said, his eyes softening. Both of them will survive, though Kanoka. Shan will most likely have a headache. Good. Naruto looked at the other two, but they both looked away from him. The first to speak was Mana, who said, I want to apologize. I made a snap decision that nearly cost us a classmate. She hadn't lost any friends since. Like I said, I forgive you. After trying to think of something to give him, she said, be that as it may, I feel like I owe you and her something. As a mercenary, I get jobs for many things, so I offer my services to you as compensation for what I did today, she said. At the end, she smiled at him and said, 3 are free and the rest are 50% off. He looked at Kaide and answered, if that is what you want. She said, I did more damage either Eva, Dono or Mana.san. Naruto was about to stop her, but she raised a hand to stop him, and he did, so she raised her head to examine her hand. My hands are now stained with blood and I cannot change that, she thought solemnly. Based on what you demonstrated during the fight, you are also a ninja, correct? She noticed that he nodded. I hereby pledge my loyalty to you, Kitsune Naruto, she said, bending down on one knee. She knew she would never forget what had happened, but the expression in her now. Master's eyes told her that he had experienced the same thing and at least knew how to handle it, so she hoped he would help her. I hope that I will learn a lot from you and that you will treat me well. With wide eyes, Naruto and the others said, you don't have to do this. Like I told Mana, I have already forgiven you. Naruto had expected an apology, but never this. With her head still lowered, she answered, but I already have, and until I die from now on I will follow you to death. After giving her words some thought, he yelled, I will not take you as my servant. Eva's eyes widened, and he added, but as my mate. Kaide's head jerked up, asking, what was it? Digazaru, she said, retrieving her catchphrase as she spoke. He smiled and said, of course that is only if you accept. He had heard Eva and Mana's version of apology and had considered stopping Kaide's, but he decided against it. Now, all of a sudden, Naruto was more or less proposing to her, which was too much for the young Englishman, and he immediately fainted onto the ground. Negi was freaking out behind him, wanting to take his student to be examined after seeing her safe, but he was stopped by the look Naruto gave him as he passed, reassuring him that nothing was wrong with Setsuna or Kanoka. Asuna, on the other hand, was furious. He first proposed to Kanoka in the middle of the street during the day, which she still didn't agree with, and then he tried to pull pranks on Kaide. Oh, I was going to give this pervert a piece of my mind, she said, ignoring Negi's kneeling and approaching the alleged pervert. Now where do you get off, huh? Do you also need to try to get Kaide.san because Kanoka isn't enough? Even though he was still holding Setsuna, she retracted her hand and was ready to punch him when she felt something stab her in the side of the neck, causing her to freeze. You can't try to hurt my new fiancé right now, can you, Digazaru? Despite her wounds, Kaide was able to move quickly enough to prevent Asuna from striking Naruto. Kaide stepped away from Asuna and said, stand down, Kaide. He was glad she had agreed, but he asked that she not interfere with his affairs on this subject. With a gentle but firm tone, he said, for now I have to get these two to bed and you need to do the same for the kid. He gestured with his head toward Negi and said, if you wish, we can speak further on this at a future time. Reluctantly, Asuna went to Negi's aid, picked him up, and started to walk to the hotel, exaggerating his name. This isn't over, Kitsune Sensei. Exasperated and emotionally spent from today's events, he thought, if you say so. Eva, let's go. Go to your rooms, Kaide and Mana, and try not to let anyone see how you're dressed. Mana and Kaide were left alone as Naruto and Eva started to head to his room. Where is Cha-Cha? Eva inquired. My clone went ahead and took her to our room. Eva considered putting her to sleep all night in order to recharge. After checking into the hotel, they headed to their room. In the meantime, Kaide and Mana. You are aware that you are currently seeing a demon, aren't you? Mana questioned the ninja, who was now engaged. Well, Digazaru, it could be worse, she said, scratching her cheek. In addition, he is a decent individual. Which is more than I can say for myself. She gazed at her hands, which she believed were still blood-stained. I'm supposed to do this as a ninja. Is it ever going to get easier? She raised her head as though she were addressing the stars. Well, I'm not sure, I never gave it much thought. She put her hand on Kaide's shoulder and said, come on, we should get some sleep. As they started to walk to the hotel, she smiled and said, yeah, I feel like I'm gonna sleep for days. Ground of Training 02, squatting down, a lone figure was inspecting the damage in the vicinity. This is definitely demon energy. Strong, powerful demon energy. A white-haired boy pondered aloud. Has the real Kyuubi returned at last? As he passed beneath the trees and vanished into the darkness, the boy concluded with a broad smile, I'll have to give His Majesty a proper welcome. At the sound of the kunai in hand, Naruto leapt to his feet. He was half asleep when he saw something move in the room's corner, so he jumped it out of instinct. Who? As he held the knife to the intruder's neck, all he could hear was, eep. Now that he was awake, Naruto looked down and saw, Nodoka? Hi. She got out and said, hello sensei. Just as fast as he had pulled the kunai out, Naruto hid it. A voice from above questioned, Nodoka, is this Negi? Sensei's room? When they both looked up, Yu's head was protruding from the tile that had been taken out. No, it belongs to Naruto. Sensei, Nodoka retorted. Yu leapt to her feet and said, damn, hi Naruto, sensei. Yo, mind explaining what's going on? Yu covers Nodoka's mouth and says, no nothing, we weren't in a circa contest for Negi. Sensei's kiss or any. After pulling her to the side of the room, she began to whisper loudly. If he finds out, we'll have to do squat in the foyer till morning. I do. Don't think Naruto, Sensei W, would do that. Well, what if the demon cut in, ladies, I can hear you. Sigh. Can you tell me what's going on, please? I promise I won't make you squat in the foyer. Yu nodded as Nodoka glanced at him, while sipping from a juice box. Where did she obtain that? What they were wearing didn't appear to have any pockets. He was distracted from his thoughts by Nodoka's voice. Well, there's a contest, amongst the groups to get Yu concluded, to get a kiss from Negi, sensei. A kiss. Both nodded. With another nod, from Negi. Well, have fun. Naruto concluded. This looks like something they would think of. From behind him, a voice said, Naruto-san, what's going on? Whoa. Yu's eyes were wide as she asked, is that Kanoka-chan? An additional voice from behind said, Naruto. Sama, is it an enemy? The phrase, crap, Setsuna-chan? It's Nodoka's turn. Stop talking, I'm trying to go to sleep. Stupid people, a third voice. Evangeline-san. They both shouted, is everything okay, master? Chachimaru. Nodoka immediately passed out. Yu glanced at her juice box and then back at the girls several times before tossing it aside. In the meantime, Naruto was trying to find a drink. Foxy, why don't you freak out? It was Eva who first inquired. Well, he held out a juice box to Yu, saying, since it's too late to do anything about it, we might as well make them comfortable. After giving it a quick glance, Yu shook her head and said, I'm trying to cut back. Sweating profusely, he handed one to Eva, Setsuna and Kanoka and said, it's not like this is what's making you see this. So, she said, taking the box and starting to drink. What's going on here? Though she was unaware of it, she asked while glancing at the three girls and the robot. Looking at Eva and Chachimaru, who are now complaining, I said, well, one of them is my charge and her partner. And the other two are my fiancés. I meant, why are you all in the same R? You mentioned competing with the other students, didn't you? Naruto cut him off. With a shake, she said, that's right. Nodoka, we have to leave now if we're going to make it. What? She shoved a bewildered Nodoka through the gap and said, no time, let's go. It was a close one. Everyone's perspiration fell. Naruto. Sama, what's happening? As if it were insignificant, he said, well, it appears the other girls are engaged in some kind of competition that entails receiving a kiss from Negi. Well, do you think we should stop them? Obviously not, say, Chan, but since it sounds like fun, we ought to participate as well. Can we be Naruto-kun? Her eyes were like puppy dog eyes as she gazed at him. Sure, Let me find the one who set everything up to find the rules of this game, said Naruto, capitulating like the man he was. Eva, let's go. Here, you two wait. When I have the information, I'll let Setsuna-chan know. The boy simply cannot avoid trouble, can he? You know you want a kiss too, don't lie to yourself. I wouldn't mind getting a kiss from you instead, what no Eva said, blushing. Of course if you want a kiss from me then I'd be happy to give you one. Can you read minds? No? Then how? He grabbed her and used the Hirishin to teleport to the location where he detected the ermine, saying, I'm just that awesome. Random room behind Kamau and Asakura, Naruto and Eva emerge. Eva ran to the closest trash can as usual. Stupid, blah. Fox. His eyes shifted to the laptop on the table after glancing at the other two people in the room. Sorry. So I was right to assume that you were involved, Kamau, and Asakura, right? Part of the newspaper club. I'm assuming that if the two of you are together then Negi did something to give himself away as a mage she found out and is now going to help the kid by keeping it a secret and helping maintain it like that by using whatever connections that she has, right? He bided his time until they both nodded. Great, now what is this game and Sai, what are the rules? With a defeated sigh, Kamau chose to proceed with telling him about the cards and the Pactio, conveniently omitting the part about the money he would receive. So will this only work for Negi? Or are we going to have everyone that kisses with these Pactios? Well, I'm not actually sure, didn't really think about it. Sigh. Is there any way to test it out? Kamau replied, you'd have to find another mage to kiss. Asakura asked, are there any other mages in the class? And pulled out a pen and paper to make a list of everyone who responded. He was distracted from his thoughts by the sound of scrubbing, and everyone turned to see what was causing it. Well, there are a few that are magically aware, a mercenary, a ninja, a swordwoman, and a Chinese martial arts master, but no other mages that I can. Eva. With a toothbrush in her mouth, she exclaimed, hoot. Naruto's perspiration fell. Did you predict that you were going to throw up? It's your fault. This is just in case you decide to pull off that teleporting thing you do and not tell me about it, which you did. At that, the demon lord grinned. Still haven't gotten used to it, have you? He received a grim look in return. How about I promise to tell you about it from now on if you do me a favor? Eva gave him a narrowed look. She knew she wouldn't like whatever he was suggesting, but that damned teleportation thing he did was really starting to irritate her. What kind of favor? She asked. Naruto returned the smile. He gestured to the space in front of him and said, nothing too big, just stand right here for a second. Eva cautiously moved in front of him, recalling what had happened the last time she had done so. When she reached the point he indicated, she looked up at him and prepared to leap away the instant he made an attempt. With a focused expression on his face, he leaned down as though to study her face and said, okay. Now I just need you to stand there while I check something. Kamau and Asakura, who both knew what he was going to do, were quietly supporting him in the meantime. In order to capture this moment for a future article, the paparazzi queen even had a camera out. Or material for blackmail, whichever came first. She was uncertain about whether to move, punch, or let Naruto get too close to her lips. Finally removing his face from hers, Naruto said, okay, thanks for that, Eva-chan. He smirked and turned around, asking, now we have to find a mage, right? At that moment, Eva became aware that her lips were puckered and her eyes were closed. This is the second time he's done this, damn that dumb fox. She thought, why am I even thinking about this? Her face was flushed. Despite their disappointment, the other two people in the room remained silent. Returning to the monitors, they started to catch up on what they had missed. Kamau started, you could always try but Asakura and he were abruptly interrupted by movement behind them. As they turned, they saw Naruto yank away from Eva and Asakura's camera is brought down by another. A burst of energy erupted from them, knocking Ermin and a friend away as a sudden flash of light and a rune circle appeared beneath them. Surprisingly, as the light dimmed and ceased in front of Naruto and Eva, respectively, two cards emerged in front of them. There was a picture of Naruto with his back to the viewer, his white cloak billowing, flames lining the bottom and rising in the center where it joined, and a picture of a nine-tailed fox encircling it. His pants, which you can see as his underwear, were black. The kanji for the dujutsu he was familiar with were all around him. The Rinnegan was above his head, the Byakugan was to his right, and the Sharingan was to his left. Eva had a picture of herself as an adult, with bats flying in a circle around her. She had bat-like wings that protruded from her back and was dressed in a black gothic dress. You could see over her shoulder, a black ice glacier that appeared to contain a gigantic fox. She held a large scythe with a black handle in one hand and a lock of hair behind her ear in the other. The blade appeared to have been dipped in blood, and whatever light should have reflected off it didn't. Ignoring Eva's shocked expression, Naruto turned to ask, "So Ermenguy, why did she get one too?" Eva felt something that shouldn't have been there just as she was ready to go Hulk on Naruto. The remainder of her strength. Despite her desire to avoid suffering harm or dying as a result of the seal's backfire, she considered telling Naruto about it and concluded that she should just in case something went wrong. "Hey Fox, there's something wrong with the seal, it isn't taking my power anymore," she stated to him. Naruto glanced back at her and determined her power level. As expected, she had regained the 20% that was meant to power the seal. After considering all the potential causes, he concluded that the Pacchio's creation was the only plausible explanation. He said nonchalantly, "Well, there's only one way to check. Take your top off, then escape a blow." "Do we have to go through this again, Chibi? I swear if that happens again." Eva began to complain as she turned to face the Ermin in the room. "Fine, but not here. It's bad enough I have to do this in front of you. I'm not going to let that pervert see me." Naruto gave the rodent a raised eyebrow, who sheepishly turned away. "I may have stolen the girl's underwear when I first got to the school," he replied. "I gave them back and apologized though." When she heard Naruto ask Kamau, she started to leave the room, saying, "You apologized to the boya and nobody else, stupid rat." "So, how big are the girls?" Asakura went into informant mode right away. "Well, the biggest is," she paused and observed Naruto being dragged back by an embarrassed Eva. Random room Eva dragged Naruto behind her as she entered the room, still flushed. She blushed more. "Stupid fox, shouldn't you be a teacher? Why would you want to know?" she said. "Ah, is Eva Chan embarrassed?" "It's okay, I don't really care about size. I actually wanted that info for a book I'm going to be writing," he clarified. She blushed all over as she asked, "What kind of book would need?" He concluded with a perverted giggle, saying, "Yeah, and with the kid I'll be sure to make millions." The way the girls can't seem to keep their clothes on around him is gold. "Let's just get this over with, you perv." Okay, keep your shirt on, or take it off I mean, and lay down here." She followed his instructions and lay down. Sitting on his knees, Naruto started to examine the seal he had created. Or what remained. Whatever transpired during the Pacchio's creation almost eliminated it. All that remained was the link that bound him to her, and for that he was thankful, otherwise she would have been in excruciating pain. However, even that aspect was beginning to fade. The fact that there was a new seal that appeared to have changed from the previous one, however, was what was truly odd. The fact that this new seal was essentially a diluted form of the one that repelled the Kyuubi before it was merged with him was even more unexpected. The Reaper Death Seal. His attention was now entirely focused on the new seal in front of him. As a seal master, he needed to know how this particular mutation occurred because he had never heard of it before. He began using his finger to trace the seal, going over each detail and learning it by heart for future research. Eva, on the other hand, was perplexed because she was nearly nude in front of someone she hated, or believed she hated, and had just met, but she felt as at ease as though she were sipping coffee by herself in her villa. "He was supposed to be the last person I loved, and I wasn't supposed to love anyone else again. What the devil are you doing to me, Fox?" In contrast to the other girls, she was aware of her feelings for someone and understood that keeping them to herself would only exacerbate them. She could honestly say that she was falling for Naruto, whoever he was, which annoyed her because she should despise him for everything he has done. However, he had a cheerful personality that made it impossible for her to remain angry for very long. He seemed to be the one she had to follow if she had to. "Great, I'm being obedient now. What does he do next that makes me declare my love for him forever?" Naruto had been studying the seal for some time by this point, but he decided it would be more amusing to watch Eva's facial expressions than to inform her that he was done. He had witnessed all of those facial expressions on a few of the women he had previously dated. He was aware that she was at last growing accustomed to him and falling for him, but he was surprised that she was content with it. The Fox Lord grinned and asked, "So, ready to accept that deal I made you?" before being given yet another surprise. The vampire had answered, "Maybe." Naruto was proud of the fact that he could now read people so well that he could almost claim to understand their thoughts. Therefore, it was as if she had dropped a bomb on everything he knew by surprising him with the response. Was he now truly a demon lord? Was he truly insane? Wasn't ramen the world's greatest food? Not at all. The world would still be the best even if it were upside down. Was everything else, though? And he doesn't care anymore. After witnessing him slam his head against the wall on the floor, Eva's perspiration evaporated, and he stopped abruptly before displaying a bored expression. He pulled out his Pactio card and said, "Well, You should put on your shirt and return to that Ermin and Asakura to learn more about these things. Before he pointed it out, the dark Evangel didn't realize she wasn't wearing a top. She blushed until she put it on, but even then, her cheeks were still a little red. Let's go. Base of operations, and we have 2 more contestants entering the game, Setsuna Sakurazaki and Kanoka Kano. What kind of game will these 2 new contestants bring? Who will be the winner and claim the lips of Negi Sensei as well as their prize? Naruto noted, she's really into this. Kamau answered, she makes the game that much more exciting. Plus the girls placing more bets is always good for business, he said. The demon said, bets? Kasumi clarified, yeah, food tickets. We bet for which girl will get to kiss Negi. Really? He reached into his pockets and took out all of his tickets, which were numerous. He gave them the tickets and said, I bet all this on Nodoka. Asakura said, oh, okay. Should you really be gambling with students? No, but should you be setting up a competition that includes all of the students in the same class without the permission that your teacher who is the goal of the competition? The paparazzi queen hung her head and said, no. Ermin nodded. Anyway, Kamau right? She said, why did both Eva and I get a Pactio card? That's easy, it means that you're a mage too, aren't you? No, I'm a ninja. So you can't use mana? Not really. What do you mean not really? I use chakra, which is a combination of mana and kai. Oh, then that would also explain it. Suddenly, behind Kamau, who had been given glasses and a guide, a whiteboard with drawings appeared. A Pactio is made using the mana of the mage that kisses them to regulate what mana the partner has, bring it out, and make a link with it. In truth, the cards are nothing more than a catalyst representing the link that was made. This allows the partner to use the energy of the mage that kisses him, her. The glasses and pointer on the board vanished. So because both of you have some kind of mana, both of you got a card. Naruto said, okay. She glanced at another video feed and said, teams 4 and 3 have lost their respective partners, and Nida the demon has captured Hasegawa and Akashi. It also seems that team 5 and 1 are having a showdown, in front of Negi's room. The winner is sure to claim his lips. Eva remarked, she's getting way too into this. Oh, what's this? The independent team of Kanoka and Setsuna have joined the fray and team 2 has as well. This team has proven that they have no equal when it comes to combat. It appears that they will. Wait, one of team 5 has broken from the group. Gasp. Nodoka has made it into Negi Sensei's room. Could it be her that manages to capture his lips? Inside the room just prior to a Naruto clone attempted to wake Negi, saying, Negi, hey Negi. May as well make this a bit more interesting. Still feeling dazed from waking up, Negi said, MMN, Naruto.san. What are you doing? Well, I thought since all these strange things have been happening lately we should go patrol the grounds. I've already made a round, but I thought that someone else should try in case I missed something along the way. Negi became fully conscious of who he was speaking to. Sensing that there were people outside the room, Naruto covered his mouth and said, N. Naruto.san. What happened to Sakurazaki.san and Kano.san? Why didn't you tell me you were a demon? Are you going to hurt my? They're okay, it doesn't matter, and no, I'm not going to hurt your students. They're my students too, and I would never dream of hurting my students. He responded to every one of his inquiries. Now, I have a mission for you. Can you patrol the hotel grounds and see if you can find anything that I missed when I did? I don't want a careless mistake on my part hurt our students. Until he began discussing the students, Negi was still unsure if he should believe the demon in front of him. He saw the same expression in his eyes that he had seen in Takahata. Sensei, a strong and honorable teacher who would not allow any harm to come to his students. He grabbed his staff and proceeded to the window where Naruto was waiting, saying, Oh, K Naruto.san. I'll get right on it. Like I said, I already went on a patrol. All I need you to do is make a second sweep to see if I missed anything. You shouldn't worry too much, though I don't think that the enemy will be around today. But in case something does happen, shoot your magic into the sky and I'll head where you were with reinforcements. Why? Yes sir. Can you bring Asuna.san too? Naruto practically shoved him out of the window, saying, Sure kid, now go. He went to work once Negi was out of sight. Just as the room's door opened, he hanged it into Negi and feigned sleep. Nodoka knelt beside the futon. Negi was in and leaned in his direction, saying, Okay, it's Nodoka. Time to get some Icha material and win this little bet. Abruptly, the room's door flew open once more, and Fei rushed in, pushing Nodoka out of the way. She leaned down to kiss Negi, but the Narutaki sisters started yanking her away, saying, No way, Uru. I'm getting Negi Kun's lips. Fuka shouted, "No way, he's mine." Fumika shouted back, "Yours? You said we could share." Together with Ku Fei, the two started fighting. Kaide was just sitting back and watching the show, but Kanoka thought it looked like fun and started to join in as well. Setsuna was following suit, but in case things got out of hand, she was prepared to intervene and save Kanoka. Kaide cast an apologetic glance at Setsuna. I'm so. As I'm sure Naruto Sama said, I don't hold a grudge, and given the circumstances I would have probably done the same. Setsuna replied by cutting her off. Then she turned around and said, plus now that you're with him as well, there's really no point in arguing. Kaide grinned. Before bowing at Setsuna's back, she said, I guess you're right, Digazaru. I'm grateful, Setsuna. Sama. Outside the window, a second Naruto clone was taking notes quickly while smoke billowed from the paper. I knew the child was ideal for the research, so this is fantastic. He stopped and looked up. I'm beginning to sound like Arrow. Senin. I'm carrying on your work wherever you are, Arrow. Senin. I hope I make you proud, Super Perv. I hope the other clone doesn't reveal his identity. He was thinking the same thing inside the clone, and since everyone was fighting around him, it was only a matter of time until he got hit and poof. I have to leave this place. He slipped through the window into the room while no one was watching, nodded to the other clone, who hanged into Negi, and then created 3 more hanged clones, all of whom went their separate ways into the hotel. Back in the room, Yu and Nodoka were the only people left in the room. Ku Fei knocked her to the side, knocking Nodoka unconscious from the blow to her head. Stay here, Nodoka. I'll go bring Negi. Sensei. If Negi hadn't entered the room earlier, she would have gotten up and left. While looking over her shoulder, the clone said, Yu-san, I'm glad I caught you. Oh, Negi. Sensei, good timing, can you? He added, and Nodoka-san is here too. It's time to show the world why I won that Oscar. This is good timing. What's Oscar? Negi started to fidget and his face flushed a little. Well, the truth is I actually wanted to speak with the two of you. I've been thinking, and is it okay if I? Negi too. The second clone Ayaka was so engrossed in her world that she didn't hear anyone open and close the door behind her. Where could my little Negi-kun be? I know I haven't lost yet, he escaped, but where? I will talk, protect Negi. Sensei's lips from all that would try anything inappropriate. She is a prime example of a cradle robber. Fortunate child, Yukihiro-san. With clone 3 of Negi, Maki was attempting to entice Negi out by asking, Negi-kun, will you come out if I gave you candy? Utilizing a lollipop. Negi 3 with a drop of perspiration thought, she would do better with a textbook. She bites into the lollipop and muses, perhaps he prefers chocolate. Good. Maki-san, I hope we don't eat each other today. With clone 4 of Negi she opened one eye in surprise, and he thought, damn, looks like Kaide knows. Ku Fei-san. Kaide-san, what will she do? When he saw her turn away, he wasn't overly shocked. He gave her a subtle wink, and she widened both of her eyes before a focused expression took over. Has a prankster's spirit. Then she grinned and opened her eyes. To see through a henge or distinguish between people's chakras more quickly, she needs training. I'll worry about it later, I guess. With the 5th Negi clone. At least these two are his age. Negi had girls 5 years his senior practically flinging themselves at him. Fumika Chan, Fuka Chan, kid is very fortunate. With a reluctant Eva and the real Naruto. Why'd I always fall for the perverts? Damn it, Fox. You tell me that I abuse my power, but look at what you're doing. Sitting cross-legged and with his eyes closed, Naruto said, come on, Chibi. Chan, there's no real harm. He was seeing what his clones were seeing by connecting with them. As of right now, everything was proceeding according to plan, even though he was laughing and perspiring. He muttered, if you behave yourself, and don't kill me, I'll give you some of the winnings I get. Fine. Alongside the other girls, every girl who wasn't taking part in the competition was gathered around their televisions, watching the feed. A plot twist so exciting. Which is the real one? Asakura really knows how to put on a show. The way he acts and moves. It's a fighter's movements. Negi Sensei cannot be the one. However, who can actually do that? The dem. You know, Naruto. Sensei. A certain gunslinger had these thoughts. I won't act as long as he doesn't do anything to endanger the students, but if something does happen. Alongside Kanoka and Setsuna, the door to a room was open when they happened upon it while searching for Negi. Kanoka noticed a TV when she peered inside. Hey, say. Chan. When that clone of Naruto's told us the rules, did it say anything about looking at a TV to see where Negi Sensei was? Kanoka asked facetiously. I don't believe so, Oju. Sama. As she entered the room, she said, all right, let's go win this competition. She switched on the television and selected the appropriate channel. When they noticed the numerous negis requesting kisses from the girls, they were both taken aback. Kanoka questioned, what's going on? With a bewildered expression, Setsuna said, I'm not sure, Oju. Sama. Let me ask Naruto. Sama, it may be an enemy plus now that I take the time I can't sense negi. Sensei on the grounds. After waiting for a moment, she said, Naruto. Sama, can you hear me? Yo, Setsuna. Chan. Hey, this is the first time that you use the link to contact me, isn't it? Setsuna reddened. Conversely, Kanoka pouted. I feel so excluded. Kanoka turned to Setsuna and said, Oju, Sama. Yes. Naruto. Sama says you shouldn't feel left out, he'll make it so that you get a mental link with the two of us soon. The fact that Naruto understood Kanoka's emotions made her smile. Tell him I said thank you and that I look forward to it. She says thank you and that she looks forward to getting the link. How? He finished, saying, did I know, I'm just that good. He shivered and said, as for the multiple negas, that's just clones of me in a henge. Nothing to worry about. There seems to be a concern at this point. Setsuna. Chan. Did you just tell Kanoka Chan that? Yes. Why? Are you two walking towards the room I'm in? Yes. I'll see you in a little bit, with Naruto. I am so dead. Eva grinned at his bad luck and said, so, your fiancé figure out what you're doing, huh? Yeah, well, I wonder what she'll think when she finds out that you're taking half of the proceeds. You wouldn't? Oh, I would. Eva smirked as she turned away after realizing he wasn't kidding. With assurance, she remarked, not like it matters, she's no match for me. I wouldn't be too sure of that. You saw when I helped her release her power, she has just a bit more than you do for sure, and when she learns how to control it, he said. There was no inquiry, just a, guess you'll help me calm her down then. With a clone of Negi, while Yu was enjoying a kiss from the person she now recognized as her growing crush, she was also considering betraying her best friend by doing the same thing. She was attempting to resist, but she fell as she was backing up. Negi was enjoying himself, not in the sense that he was essentially harassing her, but rather in the sense that he was still making her feel anxious despite the appearance of someone else. Or did he use the child's appearance? Doesn't matter. He observed Yu beginning to yield. With two Negi clones, he asked for a kiss, and she freaked out, getting a makeup kit and setting up a camera to record them. Whoa, if she's this excited about a kiss, what'll she do if I ask her to? Discovering a sink and a toothbrush somewhere. Really, where do these girls obtain such things? With the third Negi clone, me? A pervert? When she gets excited about kissing a 10-year-old, it's her. My cheek hurts, and it's not the nice one. Oh, so exciting. I just can't say no, just a little one though, okay. Whatever you say. With the fourth Negi clone. As the Negi impersonator was pinned to the wall by Fei's foot, it thought to itself, it feels like I've been here before. At least she didn't make me go poof. Ayaya. It's really embarrassing. Just a minute, she was mentally preparing herself, her head turned. Even though her legs are nice, it's not like I asked her to do it. Using the fifth Negi clone. Well, this is to be expected with kids. They began fighting over who would kiss him first after he asked for one. At least they're kind of normal. Now that I think about it, normal is pretty boring. He hung back and watched the twins fight. Returning with the real Naruto, hey Fox, she'll be here soon. Do you think we should run or something? Eva inquired of the demon who continued to speak to his other clones. Nodoka hasn't woken up yet, and the other clones are keeping the others occupied, so I just need a little more time. Not only will we lose the wager if I depart right now, but all of the clones will. What bet are you referring to, Naruto honey? From the other side of the door, where he and Eva were, a voice that sounded dangerously sweet inquired. The only word that made sense to either of them was, crap. The door slowly opened, and a smiling Kanoka, not the happy kind of smile, but the explain now kind, came in. Setsuna was walking safely behind her, sensing the waves of murderous intent emanating from her OJOU. Kanoka. What are you referring to? As he retreated with Eva, his tails between his legs, he asked the new 9 tails. Eva responded, keeping her gaze fixed on the person she was currently afraid of. Don't play dumb fox, it'll only make things worse. Naruto. In his final thought, he instructed his clones to keep going but to flee if they were discovered. With Negi 1, when he realized the real Negi had nearly reached the hotel, he was about to plant a kiss. Damn it. couldn't have worse timing, he said, pausing for a moment to reflect. All it took for you to notice the TV in the room was that one moment, and she saw 5 Negis. What's going on? She asked, pushing the Negi who was going to kiss her away. Who are you? When the Negi clone saw the TV, he looked momentarily perplexed and said, I'm crap. He was about to bolt for the door when something struck the back of his head. She noticed Negi's form on the ground and said, Wah. What's going on? You. What happened to Negi, sensei? She gestured to the TV and said, Look, that's an imposter. But what if those are the imposters and this is the real one? Yu replied candidly, causing Nodoka to perspire. Damn. She turned to face the fallen Negi form and asked, Are you the real Negi? Sens. The clone poofed away in a cloud of smoke. Guess not. Nodoka perspired once more. The other clones, in the meantime, felt that one of their own had been dispelled and started to execute their final commands. Retreat. The second Negi clone, he started running away from the class president, saying, Crap, I need to get out of here. The boss just had to order a retreat. I almost got a kiss from a hot girl, he said, adding, and she was willing. As she followed him, she inquired, Sensei, where are you going? The third Negi clone, Maki chased, Negi.kun wait, I have more candy. With a drop of perspiration, he thought, what's up with this candy thing? Clone 4 of Negi. Negi. Bozu wait, Uru. She gave me a foot to the face as a greeting, and she wants me to wait. Who am I kidding? I probably would. Degazaru. It looks like Naruto. Dono and Ku. Fei. Dono are having a good time. Kaide grinned as she followed the two. Clone 5 of Negi. It wasn't too difficult to escape the twins because they were still fighting until they saw him leave. Fuka noted, he's trying to escape. Truce? Fukima asked, glancing at her sister as she extended her hand. Before accepting her sister's hand, Fuka glanced at it and said, truce. For now, they both agreed, and then followed the now operational Negi clone. Area of the front desk. Now, what should we do? The second Negi clone inquired. Was there anything said by the boss? 3 people answered. Nope. 4. 5 said, not that I heard. 2 said, looks like we lost 1. 3 took the lead and stated, the boss wants Nodoka to win so we have to keep the rest away from Negi. 2 of the girls brought his fist down between them and said, right, so when the other girls get here split up and distract the others. Negi should be entering the hotel soon. The other girls followed suit as soon as the girls arrived. They all said, break, and proceeded to their assigned charges. Negi.kun. Negi. Bozu. Negi. Sensei. Sensei. Ayaka. Ku. Fei. Maki, and the twins exclaimed. What are the 4 of them doing? With stars in her eyes, Ayaka asked. She truly needs assistance with that. What's happening here? When Nida finally descended, she inquired. Negi 2 shouted, it's the law cheese it. Wa.f.fo, neg.sen. Nida immediately fainted, unable to understand how there could be more than one Negi. It appeared that Yu and Nodoka were the only ones worried about their other sensei. Nida. Sensei. The others were a little too direct with their clones, who had finally caught up to them. Ah, this one was a fake too. Maki pulled her ribbon a bit too hard, causing it to fly back and hit the wall, scattering the clone. I wanted a kiss, Uru. Ku. Fei leapt onto the person she was pursuing, but the shock of the fall knocked it off balance. Kaide thought, so which is the real one? Fuka kept Negi busy while Fukima managed to get ahead of the twins as they chased their own clone. Give it up, Negi. Sensei, we'll catch you eventually. Fukima was just around the corner and extended her leg when Negi tripped and face planted hard. That's going to leave a mark. It thought as it scattered. The final clone gave up to spare itself the agony because it believed that if it continued to run, something similar to what happened to the others would happen to him. So turns out the others were fakes. That means that you have to be the real one, Ayaka said. At least she's not so dim that if Negi had been present, the reasoning would have made sense. Ayaka was on the verge of kissing Negi when she was struck in the side by a foot. What the hell is going on here, you brat? Alright, I didn't anticipate Asuna finishing her bath so quickly. Arranged by, first I find someone is peeping on me in the bath. At least I did some solid research, so that's why. I can't catch him then. I've discovered that the Shotokan is attempting to harass you. I want answers because I know you're involved in some way, you brat. Before dispelling itself, it thought, well, it's time to go before I die. If all of them were phony, where is the real one, then? Ayaka asked herself as she held her side now. Lobby of a hotel, finally finished. The real Negi had finally shown up. He blushed when he saw Nodoka and blushed in return. Nodoka-san, regarding what previously occurred. Oh, I mean, you don't need to worry about that at all, With Kamau and Asakura. The Negi clones appear after Naruto and Eva vanish, and as if that weren't awful enough, it turns out that all of the clones were fakes. They turn to face one another. Stop losing? Kamau inquired. And flee? That sounds like a good idea, the reporter said. To the disapproval of the girls watching the feed, they collected their winnings and were leaving. Wait, San, it's the real Negi, he has his staff and everything. She hurried back to the screen. Is it possible that Team 5 has the upper hand? Will they be the ones to kiss Negi? Sensei? Oh no, I should have placed my wager on the same individual that Naruto. Sensei did. Sounds of incredulity emanated from the monitor. Did she say Naruto? Sensei? Are you there now? Hello, Naruto. Sensei. Am I still able to alter my wager? Back in the lobby. No, The reality is. He paused, searching for the right words, and said, I mean, I like you too, but I also like everyone in the class. I don't really know what it means to like someone. Like a student teacher. Then Nodoka tried to explain. No, Sensei. I am unable to respond to you at this time, but if we can begin as friends, one day, perhaps. With a smile, Nodoka said, that sounds great. You thought, yeah, this is the real Negi, Sensei. In the company of Naruto, isn't that adorable Naruto-kun? Kanoka asked. Naruto began, well if I could see, what was that? Kanoka answered in a kind tone. He had several bumps on his head, his nose was bleeding, and both of his eyes appeared to be swollen shut. He hurriedly said, nothing honey nothing. That's what I thought you said. Sorry Naruto. Sama when she gets like that not even Kano. Dono or her father can control her, or they're too afraid to try. It's okay, Setsuna. Chan. I should recover completely in a short while. How are you feeling, by the way? I should be able to train again by tomorrow, OJOU. Sama's healing abilities are amazing. He glanced at the monitor and thought, looks like I'll win this bet yet. I'm glad and yes they are. With training I wouldn't be surprised if she could bring a person back from death's door. He saw Yu's foot extend to trip Nodoka. Kamau and Asakura. Kamau cheered. Okay, the Miyazaki Nodoka Pactio card. She turned to the betting tickets and said, but we only got the one. Well, at least we get these two. Kamau.kai, let's go. She opened the door to find Nita looking irate. So you're the one that organized this Asakura. Busted. Until morning, everyone involved squats in the lobby. Negi. Sensei, you too. In the lobby later, at least we're here together. I get to sit with Negi. Sensei till morning. I need to do some serious self-searching. I knew this would happen. But it's more fun with everyone else. At least I made a profit. Evangeline. Dono and Naruto. Dono, why are you two here? Both of them had anime style tears streaming from their eyes as Kaide asked, one eye open and staring at them with curiosity. Eva nodded in response to Naruto's statement, never make Kanoka mad, at least I won. Kaide's head was simply marked with a question mark. The room of Naruto, then Kanoka sneezed in the room. Bless you OJOU. Sama. Come now say. Chan you can call me Kanoka, or even Ko-chan. When Kanoka waved her to stop, she stopped, saying, that wouldn't be proper Now. In any case, it appears that tomorrow I will need to punish Naruto-kun even more. Naruto sobbed more in the lobby. Oju. Sama can be frightening when she's angry. A couple of hours later the sun was just starting to rise on the horizon, casting a lovely glow over the city as Naruto gazed down from the school's roof. What the hell is going on with me? Was all of that rage a fleeting emotion, or am I becoming softer? This is my chance to make my life different, Naruto said, looking out at the bright city where his new students were staying. Should I? These people genuinely want to know who I am. To them, I am simply a person, not merely a monster or a demon. Evangeline, Kaide, Setsuna, Kanoka. In a flash of blue fire, Naruto vanished, ready for the new day and eager for the adventure it would bring. I will not fail the trust that you have given me, he said with a smirk on his lips. But that doesn't mean I won't play a few pranks on them though, just to keep life interesting. Naruto's room in the morning. Nita is a dumbass for forcing me to squat. Naruto complained as he rubbed his knees, why does this hurt so much anyway? I'm a demon lord for fuck's sake. I thought as a teacher I would get some sort of leeway. His legs felt like they were made of cement, and his knees felt like they had been repeatedly struck with a hammer before being stomped on. Ouch, what was that for Kanoka? Chan? He clutched his head and asked. Kanoka wasn't going to give the Fox Lord any chances today, so she said, "Don't use such crude language, Naruto-kun, or I'll have to punish you again. Everything may have turned out okay yesterday, but you're still on 24/7 watch." She grinned, aware of how much power she had over her fiancé. Eva added, whipped. She had been whining a little while ago, too, but she was enjoying herself now that she and Naruto had returned to their room and Kanoka started teasing her. Not even married and already in the doghouse, Foxy? A lot of magical energy was suddenly released, and she stammered, "You need to keep you sub. Or. D. Nates, I. Damn, how much power does this girl have?" Evangeline.san. "You weren't making fun of my future husband, were you?" She saw Eva shake her head. "That's good because only Say. Chan and I are capable of doing that here." "Correct, Say. Chan?" She glanced over at the woman with the sword. Though she was a little unnerved by the power Kanoka was releasing, she knew her OJOU didn't have any malicious intent. Of course Kano. OJOU. Sama. Sorry Naruto. Sama. With a smile, Naruto replied, "It's okay, Setsuna. Chan." Kanoka wanted to speak with both of them privately as well, but Naruto had told her that she would have to wait before he marked her. "And stop using your mental link to speak with Say. Chan makes me feel left out." "Don't worry Kanoka. Chan, as soon as I speak with your father and get his approval, or not, I'll have no problem with giving you the same abilities I gave Setsuna. Chan here." Naruto wanted nothing more than to mark her right away. Damn demon instincts. However, she wanted to do things correctly and ask her father's permission first. A voice in his head said, "Don't know why you're going to mark her regardless." Kyubi. No, you moron, it's the Easter Bunny. Who else could it be? She fired at him. But he was really wrong when he said, "Makes me sound crazy. I've had more than your voice in my head before if you don't remember." "Yes, you are." She started to calm down before asking in her most seductive voice, "Maybe I deserve a little reward." "No?" referring to the mountains of information strewn throughout his mindscape. "Anyway, while you were out there playing your little games, I was busy doing actual work." From angry to seductive in seconds, "Did I model you off Anko?" Naruto exclaimed, perspiring at her sudden change in tone. "I just am. I'm not sure. I don't take inspiration from anyone. When I'm done giving you all the information the previous Kyubi had, I'll vanish until I'm needed again. I'm just here to fix your mind and stuff, and if I sound like anyone from your past, that's just a coincidence," she explained. "You seem okay with that." Naruto looked a little serious. He reasoned that anyone would be at least sad or angry if he stopped existing. "Meh, so long as you're alive I won't ever truly cease to be, so just stay alive and I won't have any problems with what happens to me in between," she said with a detached voice. "All right, so what have you got for me today?" Naruto has been curious about his role ever since he turned into a demon, and the all-powerful techniques also sounded good. Many of your ninja techniques, as well as demon ones, are covered in the hundreds of pages on demon etiquette. The library, like entity, listed the things that were abundant, leaving the things he could learn literally while he slept for later. There are demon laws and charters, sealing techniques, and much, much more. Is there any way you can give me the information without me going into an info overload coma? Naruto was still recovering from the last information attack he had received. I might as well get etiquette over with now since I'll have to learn it eventually. Naruto simply scowled in response to Q's pout. No fun. All right, just hold your hands out in front of you and channel your demon energy between them. As she prepared to do so, she explained, I'll turn the unprocessed material into a book. The girls in the same room were staring at Naruto when he abruptly stopped talking to Q. What? Setsuna was the one to explain, and he saw them all wince and take a step back. She blushed and turned away, too ashamed to continue. Well, you were making strange faces and I was worried, and Kanoka picked up where she left off, blushing as well. She blushed and pressed her fingers together, saying, well, you just looked so cute with your ears and tails swaying back and forth while you switched through your facial expressions, we couldn't resist. They both turned to face the vampire who was halfway out the door attempting to get away before the blonde started to tease. Even Evangeline.san couldn't resist, see. Before he could say another word, he was punched to the wall. Ouch. He had a fist imprint on his face, and as he stood up, he sensed that someone was trying to kill him. He put his hands up in defense, and he flinched before the majestic being known as the all-powerful Chibi, Peer. When he looked up, He noticed that everyone was staring at him with differing reactions. Kanoka was laughing uncontrollably on the floor, while Setsuna and Kanoka, as well as the recently animated Chachimaru, were either giggling or suppressing a laugh. Chibi. Peer, hee. She was laughing so hard that she was gasping for air, her fist was hammering the floor, and tears were streaming down her cheeks. Eva thought she was gone. Naruto briefly relaxed and felt relieved, but then he sensed a change in the air around him, and wham! Holy shit, a sonic boom. Didn't think the chibi had it in her, Naruto thought as he bounced and slammed his way through the woods surrounding the hotel. There was a loud explosion, the sound of trees snapping, and tremors from multiple impacts to the ground. He sent a tiny amount of energy through the seal that linked him to Eva somewhere in between the bounces. I hope it was worth it though. He eventually stopped in the middle of the road near the three falls from the other day, completely unharmed, of course. The onlookers clapped as they saw him. Did you see that? Amazing effects. Where are the cameras? I wonder what acting school he attended. That was epic. Did you see? The other individuals shared this sentiment. As the attention seeker that he was, Naruto stood up, cleaned himself up, and bowed, saying, thank you, thank you. Things are going to be fun these next few days, he said with a fox-like grin before starting to walk back to the hotel. I'll be here for the rest of the week, so be ready to experience action like you've never seen. In the hotel, Eva was instantly paralyzed by a torrent of electricity that started as soon as Naruto got too far away from her. Master. Chachimaru was concerned because she didn't know how much damage the seal would cause to her master, and the electricity continued for another 20 seconds while Eva screamed in agony. Eva coughed out, cough. Totally worth it. Smoke was oozing from her clothes and some areas of her skin, but the skin was healing quickly. Chachimaru cough. Get me a cough. Change of clothes. Eva was able to escape. Despite his concerns, Chachimaru complied, saying, yes master. Kanoka and Setsuna, meanwhile, were worriedly staring out the room's new exit. Is Naruto-kun going to be okay? Unaware of the Demon Lord's boundaries, Kanoka inquired. Even though Setsuna knew he was fine, she was concerned and responded, I'm sure he's fine, I think. As she was putting on new clothes, she said, the fox is fine, I would have kept getting shocked if he wasn't. Would have been worth it if he died though. She was done when Naruto entered through the wall hole and said, told ya. She frowned, but if you looked closely, you could see a brief moment of relief on her face. Pointing over his shoulder, he said, I'm not paying for this either. Speaking of which, how did you get all those holes you made yesterday morning fixed? He gestured toward the walls, which were clearly recently repaired. Naruto-kun, are you alright? Kanoka inquired, still anxious. He noticed Setsuna moving her eyes away from him and then back to him. Thank you to Setsuna-chan. He grinned at the flush that followed. But seriously, how did? He heard a brief incantation. Eva chanted, evocation, spirituae de decimo renovo. 10 small, gnome-like spirits now hovered around her, observing the hole in the wall and settling into equal positions around it before starting to chant in an unidentifiable language. Eva turned to the group, flipping her hair over her shoulder, and noticed 2 of the 4 spectators staring at her in wonder as the wall magically materialized from the center out until only a full wall was in place. The gnome-like creatures turned to the vampire and nodded before vanishing. What? She turned slowly to Naruto, expecting to see the same expression of wonder that Setsuna and Kanoka had, but instead she gaped and got a slight nosebleed. It wasn't a big deal really, just an ordinary spell. Okay, it was a highly advanced summoning spell, and she was very smug about knowing she could make the 2 females gape in awe. A nearly nude Naruto was searching through his bag in front of it for a change of clothes, and Setsuna and Kanoka turned to see the expression on Eva's face but were blasted back with a stream of blood coming from their noses. After turning to face Eva and flexing his muscles, Naruto asked, should I go with the black or dark blue today? He appeared to be thinking deeply about his outfit choice. What do you think, Eva? Chan. With a seductive voice and his best lady killer smile, he asked. With only Chachimaru left, that was it for the vampire, who was now joining the 2 in blissful unconsciousness. That was not very nice, Kitsune. Sensei. She said in her typical monotone voice, though a little annoyed. When Naruto made the decision to go for 4 of 4, he sealed with one hand, and a cloud of smoke engulfed him. A Negi-like figure with fox ears and a tail emerged from behind the smoke. Cha-cha. Shanna, I'm scared. C. Can you hold me? With dreaded puppy dog eyes, he asked. Chachimaru's response was rather amusing. She stood motionless as though she was taking in the scene, and when it did, steam started to emerge from her imaginary ears, and she began to shake as if she were about to explode, before finally passing out and appearing to be unconscious. Still got it, hee hee? As he changed back, he grinned and said, "Now, should I choose black or blue?" He thought again. He heard someone say, "Go with black, Foxy, it fits you way better than blue. By the way, great job, there was so much blood it was awesome." Naruto went to the bags and glanced around, only to find a doll next to one of them. Was that you? Talking to a doll made him feel silly, but he had to acknowledge that he had done more bizarre things. "Yes, that was me, Foxy. Do you have an issue with that?" The blonde didn't believe her, which annoyed the doll a little. She thought to herself, "Nope, just making sure I'm not going crazy. It's bound to happen someday." "Haha, of course you're crazy, Foxy, it's what makes you so fun," she replied. "I suppose so. In any case, do you believe that black would be more appropriate for today?" "You know, I think you're right," he said with a smile as he returned to the clothes he had laid out for himself. "Thank you. How can I make it up to you?" He said, putting on the clothes before turning back to the doll. "Oh, my name is Chachizero. I take it you're Naruto." He nodded, and she said, "How about you bring me along today?" The doll's expression changed from one of sadness to one of sadistic glee, saying, "Plus with you I get to see a lot more blood. I'm really bored just lying here alone all day." Dropping his perspiration at the abrupt shift in tone, Naruto said, "Sure, no problem, I'll have to ask Eva-chan, but I'm sure she won't complain." He then picked up the doll and put it on his shoulder. The doll objected, "No, Foxy, higher, higher." Naruto put it on his head and said, "That's better, thanks, Foxy." Chachizero settled down as comfortably as a doll could and asked, "Now, when's Master going to wake up?" Even though the doll enjoyed watching the blood spill, it became monotonous after a while to see the same blood. With his hand under his chin, feigning deep thought, Naruto said, "No clue." He suddenly grabbed a stick and started jabbing the unconscious vampire, saying, "I've never seen a vampire pass out from blood loss." "How many vampires have you seen, I wonder?" Curious, the doll asked. Naruto kept jabbing Eva, relishing every moment, saying, "Just her. Though it does make sense for a vampire." "Whatever, Foxy, let's go," he said, as the doll on his head began to perspire. Chachizero said, "Master and the others can catch up." "Well, I guess I'm hungry anyhow. On to the food, Zero-chan," Naruto said, striking a dramatic pose and gesturing toward the door. "And to blood." The doll followed suit, or as closely as it could given its limited range of motion. As Naruto walked out the door toward the cafeteria, it was his turn to perspire at its blood fetish. Hotel lobby. After eating breakfast, Naruto decided to find the young Magi teacher and ask him, or the Ermine, about the card he had received the day before. "I hate this place with a passion now," he thought, recalling how he had spent the previous day squatting in the same foyer as he was in now. The Ermine and Mage were talking to Asuna about something, and Asakura was just sitting there, contributing when needed, so it didn't take long to find them because they were making the most noise. When Naruto noticed the bashful Madoka hiding just out of sight of the four, he decided to play a practical joke and started to creep up behind them with the intention of frightening the living daylights out of them. Wonder what she's doing. He entered full stealth mode and started listening in on Negi and the others. Blah blah blah, other cards, yada yada, perverted Ermine. Ooh, so I just have to say a deed to activate the card. Seems a little too simple. He watched Asuna use it and caught a glimpse of her underwear. Only around Negi, he thought, making notes in a notebook. Where are you going? S.So just say, Adit. A light flashed, and a book materialized in her hands. Nodoka had no idea what was happening with the talking Ermine, but she was aware that Asuna's card turned into a fan when she said it. As she read the first few pages of the book, Naruto noticed that she blushed. I have to see this, he said, weaving a small genjutsu around himself to make himself invisible to the untrained eye. He then walked up the wall, onto the ceiling, and directly above Nodoka's position. In the meantime, he caught another panty shot and wrote it in his notebook. Why? You. He watched the aforementioned girl approach Nodoka and attempt to read the book. Naruto noticed a few pages discussing the events between Yu and Negi, also known as the Naruto clone, that contained phrases that seemed to be written from Yu's perspective rather than Nodoka's. The possibilities were almost limitless. So it pretty much reads the mind of whomever the user calls. If I was able to use that book. Nodoka became agitated while reading the book. And Yu was freaking out when she attempted to look at it. Haruna interrupted them both and instructed them to prepare. Well, time to see if the girls are ready to go. Naruto dropped from the ceiling after they had left, looked around, and then removed the just Yu that was around him. He started to walk to the room where they were staying, still considering what he would do if he had that book. What do you think of that book, Zero? Chan. By the way, Foxy, how did you manage to keep me on your head while you were upside down? Looks like fun. Maybe we can look into my mind with it, then you can see why I love blood so much. She believed that as soon as he climbed the side of the wall, she would fall. As if it were nothing out of the ordinary, he explained, I used my chakra. Did I have that in mind when we were on the ceiling? There was a change in the way she asked Naruto to take note. Yes, but why? He ceased to be aware of whether the response would be positive or negative. She was pleasantly surprised and demonstrated it by floating around with her small knife in hand while singing, I got no strings on me. Well. The doll moved off Naruto's head and floated in front of him. I can move now, and I don't need master here. Come on, Zero. Chan, let's go talk with your master. He picked her up out of the air and placed her on his head, saying, and no flying till we're somewhere nobody can see you. Naruto perspired before considering the possible outcomes, both positive and negative. She pouted, wanting to enjoy the fact that she could move for the first time in a long time. Ah, come on, Foxy. Naruto simply continued to walk until he reached his room. Somehow, arcade, he had told Eva what he knew about Zero after calming down the 3 girls and 1 robot, and she said she didn't care but that Chachazero was now his responsibility. He assumed she would say that and dismissed it, but when the doll started flying around, Eva became interested. He genuinely didn't know how he got dragged into this place. Naruto saw the desire for it in her eyes and assumed he had another wife to worry about, or not, given the vampire's admittedly impressive power. But she was annoyed when he replied, chakra. They all went outside and watched as Nodoka and her group dragged Negi and Asuna away. Eva was about to turn around when Kanoka noticed them and pulled her and Naruto toward them. When they attempted to object, she responded in an overly happy and frightening manner, saying that she wanted to accompany Negi. After winning for what felt like the 100th time, he muttered to himself, this is so boring. He was kicking butt in a fighting arcade game, but it wasn't because he knew how to play, rather, it was because he had incredible reflexes. As the newly animated doll on his head replied, tell me about it, Foxy. This game doesn't even have the blood like the game's master plays. Can we leave? Or are you able to battle master once more? I'm sure there was a lot of blood, but I missed it the first time. She insisted that Naruto tell Chachazero what had happened to him when he arrived, and she was devastated to learn that he and her master had fought and that she had missed it. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Negi and Asuna conversing with Setsuna. He channeled chakra into his ears and heard that they were leaving Setsuna in charge of Kanoka, who was too preoccupied with a game with the other girls to notice. Maybe later. He looked around and saw Eva playing a game with childlike excitement. Now, how to get her off the game? He asked, are you trying to give me the slip, are you? It's not going to happen. Well, Zero. Chan looks like we're leaving. Well, why don't you ask Chachamaru? She usually does it. Recalling all the instances in which she had witnessed that robot remove her master from the game, Zero told him. Oh, really, this world was backwards, where the master was forced to stop doing something by the one beneath them. In any case, it was almost like he was with the cages back in his world. Just mention the debt she had with me and the old lady cage would immediately stop what she is doing. He grinned, recalling the good times he had in Konoha. Hey Cha-Cha. Chan, can you get Eva? Chan to get off the game, we have to get going. He pointed to the retreating Negi Asuna and, surprisingly, Nodoka now. He broke out of his reverie and went to where Chachamaru was next to the machine that Eva was playing. The response came instantly after she went behind the machine and unplugged it. Yes, Naruto. Sensei. Eva was about to break her own record when the screen went blank, and she thought, what the hell Chachamaru, I was just about to win again. She flipped her hair over her shoulder and said, should have known that it had something to do with you. Naruto was standing by the robot, grinning. And it had better be good. I'm bored, the kid is leaving, and unless you want to feel the pain you did this morning then I thought you'd want to come with me, said Naruto, who was not in the least bit concerned. Eva sighed after giving the demon fox a fierce look. Anyway, let's move on. Before turning back to the others, she gave the robot instructions, saying, Chachamaru, I want you to stay here and make sure nobody knows that we are gone. The robot obeyed right away. Hey say. Chan, Eva and I are going to go with Negi to make sure he's okay, Naruto said as he went to talk to Setsuna. He smiled and got a blush in return. Naruto created the clone, which instantly transformed into a fox and hid among the machines. See ya. He kissed her on the cheek before leaving with Eva. I'm going to leave a clone with you to make sure nothing happens, but I'm sure with you here anyway. Naruto.kun. Setsuna smiled again, determined to protect her OJOU. Sama. I won't fail you or OJOU. Sama. She almost fainted from the kiss, but she held on and brought her hand to her cheek. With Eva and Naruto, Naruto saw that Eva was staring at him oddly as they jumped on the roofs of the houses, following Negi's energy to wherever he and Asuna were going with an unidentified Nodoka. Eva. Chan, are you thinking about something? He wondered why she was staring at him, but he didn't mind. What do you play? Why do you voluntarily lower yourself to the level of those children? And why is the boy so important to you? Being Mahora's guardian forced her to be curious about all of these things, which made her strangely curious. Naruto said, I could ask you the same thing. Is it because you're Mahora's guardian or because you genuinely care about the students there? Being all-powerful is great and all, but in the end it's just you and a throne at the top of the world, he said, closing his eyes for a moment before continuing. While it had been fine to be by himself with all the power, Naruto knew that the kind of life it had led was something he could never experience. He started to go through the memories he had acquired from the previous Kyuubi before recalling his own early years. He reflected on his now destroyed home world and said, and even though it hurts when they're gone, having people you care about around you will always give you memories that you can go back to. He reflected on Gaara's life and said, being alone is the worst, it's like nothing matters. He reflected on all of the people he knew back in Konoha when it was still there. Eva reflected on her journey, the time she had met the Thousand's Master, his departure, and the years she had spent at the academy, admitting that despite being imprisoned there, she had enjoyed herself and couldn't help but agree with the Demon Lord. He grinned at Eva with a genuine, heartfelt smile instead of his typical foxy one, saying, so even if I have to live my life at a quarter of my power, as long as I am able to live with people I care about, I'll be okay. The doll on Naruto's head replied, somewhat ruining the atmosphere, and so long as there's blood, I'll be happy. Yes, Zero. Chan, blood and gore. He and Eva were in a tree not far from where Negi and Asuna had stopped in front of a stairway. Well, looks like the little mage needs to work on his detection skills if he can't sense we're here. He felt Nodoka wasn't too far behind him and extended his own senses, creating a clone that also transformed into a fox and went into the woods to wait for the bookworm. For what purpose was that? Eva inquired, clearly unaware that Nodoka was following. Naruto perspired. He had assumed the vampire didn't care, but she actually didn't realize there was another person. Looks like we have to work on your own detection skills if you can't sense the person that has been following Negi's group since we left the arcade. Yes, that was a valid excuse. Shut up, Fox, I just got my powers back and I still haven't gotten used to it. When he saw the start of one of Setsuna's spells, Naruto quickly used their mental link to tell her not to tell the child he was following them. Sure, blame your power, he thought, not buying her excuse for a moment. Following her response, a chibi representation of her materialized before Negi, warning them to exercise caution as they entered Kansai territory and to be on the lookout for any traps. They then started running up the stairs and embarked on the arduous journey to locate the head of the Kansai Magical Association. An unknown period of time after, 2. You're running out of money, Eva. Chan. Naruto laid 2 cards face down. 3. I'll win this time, Fox. She put the 3 down. Zero called and put the card down, saying, 1. Master, you said that 5 times in a row. Compared to you, I've been luckier. Stop talking, Zero. Eva and the others looked at their hand, but Eva smiled knowingly and said, I have you this time, all in. She pushed all of the money she had left to the center and said, if you bet all you have, I'll let you use any nickname you want for me, Fox. Naruto perspired, but he dealt the cards anyhow. When he saw Eva nod slowly, Naruto pushed in all of his money and smiled back, saying, throw in that you have to call me Naruto. Sama when we are within people we know and you're on. How about you, Zero? Chan. He smiled as he turned to face the doll. She threw the cards down and took her remaining money, explaining, I want to buy some dresses and a new knife. Need money for that, and that face shows that I may not have any if I go on. Chachizero was looking for some kind of doubt on Naruto's face, but she was unable to find any. I fold. Anyway, where did you get that money? Given that Zero hadn't even been able to move since recently, Naruto questioned whether Eva had given her and Chachimaru an allowance or something. Well, her money is left with her belongings by her master. What I borrowed from you, she said, adding some cash to the pile. Oh, that reminds me, here master. The money began to accumulate, and Eva was already envisioning a new flat screen TV with all the new gaming systems, new clothes, shoes, and more dolls. They hadn't started out big, but Naruto had kept losing at first, so she thought on purpose, but that was foolish, right? Eva growled, but she got right to the point. Straight flush diamonds 5 to 9, beat that. As Naruto was about to put his cards down, Eva began to draw the money to her and was ready to celebrate when he said, oh, you got me, Eva. Chan. Eva instantly turned pale as Zero, now on Naruto's head, said, "What are you talking about, Foxy? That's a royal flush. Look, Master is a ghost now." "Way to ruin the surprise, Zero. Chan." Naruto complained as he turned his cards over to reveal the flush. "Well, it appears that I get to come up with nicknames for you now, don't I, Eva? Chan? I suppose I'll choose Chibi. Here for today. Zero. Chan, what are your thoughts?" She turned to face the stairway and said, "Sounds funny, Foxy. Do you think they finally figured it out?" Negi's group had finally come to a halt. Asuna kicked a rock, and he thought, "Nope, it looks like they're just stopping to rest." They attempted to run to the sides, fly out, and essentially sprint through the endless loop before stopping at a rest area to rest. Ouch, that had to hurt. Negi then chanted a spell, and Asuna kicked the rock once more, this time the rock yielding. So that's part of the card's strength. Moments later, a large spider landed next to the rest area, and a seemingly normal boy was perched atop it. The sadistic doll on his head said, "Ooh, look, Foxy, maybe there'll be blood now." Naruto sniffed the air as a slight wind picked up, thinking, "It smells like a dog demon, just a little diluted. Another Hanyu maybe. How will you handle this, Negi?" Naruto asked himself. With a clone of Naruto and Nodoka, where are Asuna-san and Negi? "Sensei." "The book, that's right," Nodoka said to no one, opening it as a small fox approached and rubbed against her leg. She gave a little shout, then looked down and grinned, asking, "How are you, D? Doing, little fox? Are you lost?" The fox shook its head, and she saw it say, "Oh, then, would you like to assist me?" The fox, however, nodded in an odd conclusion, saying, "All right, let's go help Negi. Sensei and Asuna-san." When she came across an image of a gigantic spider in the book, she said, "Oh my, what do I do?" She turned to the fox as if it would give her the answer. The Naruto fox jumped onto her shoulder and pointed at the book with its nose, nuzzle. "'Kay, keep reading." She followed the fox's nod. "I could just jump down there and take out the kid, but it's much more fun to stay here and draw on Eva. Chan's face." Asuna had finished off the spider and was struggling with the now familiar Inu Hanyo. The vampire's face, which was still unresponsive from the recent loss, now had doodles on it. The doll eventually joined in, saying, "Haha, there's no blood, but this is fun, Foxy." After all, she wasn't able to play with her master like this very often. With Nodoka and Naruto, the fox clone, they had become so involved in the fight that they had left the path and fled into the surrounding forest. "Look out, Negi. Sensei." The Naruto fox perspired as he observed the battle taking place behind the girl. If only Asuna-san was able to land a hit." Nodoka continued reading the book. "He missed the pervert. Well, there's no point in dwelling on the past. Let's see. The Inu is good but is relying on his speed a bit too much. The only reason he's winning is that Negi has almost no training in hand-to. Hand fighting. Oh, it looks like Chibi. Setsuna has an escape plan. She needs to learn to walk and read, so to speak. Like Kakashi. Sensei. By using a fire-like spell on the soda, it built up pressure from the evaporation and ultimately exploded, causing the mist. I could have done better, but it gets the job done. Now let's see, Wolf Boy is about to attack Nodoka but won't hurt her. Should I stop him though? Nah. A big mist covered the area Negi and the others were in. How do you fall into a girl's skirt? He asked, observing the scene until the boy found himself in an awkward situation. The half demon pointed out, "You shouldn't be here right now. There's a sign at the entrance, didn't you see it?" "So, sorry, Nei. Chan, I didn't mean it." The boy immediately got up to apologize. Hey, it's you from the arcade." Nodoka bowed and said, I'm sorry." She had seen the sign but wanted to follow Asuna and Negi. "Whoa, that kid is talented. He sneaks a peek at a girl's underwear and gets her to apologize for it. He should show me that." As things developed, she came to know his name, later Pink Panties Oni. Chan. Sneaky, not really. Kid has a soft spot for girls, wonder why. Nodoka said, glancing at the boy's back as she pulled out her card and activated it. Pink panties, I see, the Naruto fox clone thought, reserving that thought for the real Naruto to use in later books. The little fox started to perspire when she said, let's go. Do I belong to her now? She asked. Except for Nodoka's fox on her shoulder, the rest is canon. When Asuna turned to face the barrier that Setsuna had erected, she exclaimed, "Woo, we made it out. And that wolf kid isn't going anywhere soon. What comes next?" she inquired. The Naruto clone leapt off Nodoka's shoulder and approached the group, saying, "Well, before we continue, we should find a place to rest. How are you feeling, Negi?" Negi almost fell to the ground in response. "Well, that settles that. What about the others?" Who are you? You sound like Kitsune Sensei, but why?" Asuna went into full panic mode, and Nodoka knelt down and touched the fox's ears. "Why are you three not freaking out? There's a talking fox right in front of us." He waggled his tail uncontrollably as she petted him, saying, "Feels like real fur." He responded as a typical fox would. "Is this magic of some sort? Like Negi Sensei used to do? This is just like those books I read in the library," she said, her eyes shining. "Well, it's not exactly magic but pretty close." He turned to Asuna, and the Naruto clone began to perspire. "You'd think that with all the crazy things that happened in your life the past few weeks you'd be a bit more open-minded," he said. "You will have to wait for the real me to arrive, though." Despite his wounds, Negi was able to escape, saying, What do you mean Naruto-san?" The clone informed them, "I think he wants to speak with the Inu demon for a little." Negi looked even paler after he was done. "Now, who is going to take responsibility for Nodoka Chan here learning about the magic world?" he asked. "With Naruto in real life. Come on Eva, Chan, we have to catch up to the others." Naruto started prodding Eva's still scribbled face, pausing briefly before continuing, "If you hurry I'll buy you a new TV and those games that you wanted Aloe." He didn't even finish when he saw Eva was gone, saying, "Well, at least I know what gets her motivated." Zero started jabbing at the top of his head with her knife, warning, "Chachimaru isn't going to like this Foxy." The doll said, "She thinks the master has enough games as it is." He heard her protest but complied, saying, "I think I know what I can give Cha-Chan to make sure she doesn't do anything rash." Naruto held up a hand to stop her, saying, "Keep doing that and I'll take it away. Regardless, let's go check out Inu.boy." He leapt from his position and landed close to the wolf demon, where Eva materialized a moment later. She was a little miffed that the blonde had already run halfway to where Negi was and asked, "What's the deal, Fox? I thought we were going to follow the boya." "Calm down Chibi. Here, I wanted to talk with Kotaru here." He and the other two heard the person on the ground start laughing. Hee. Chibi. Here. Kotaru couldn't help but laugh because it was too funny. M.My sighed. "Ha ha ha. Can't stop. Ahaha." Despite the pain from the electricity running through him, he couldn't stop laughing. He stopped laughing slowly after the electricity abruptly went out. Cough. "What, did you help me?" Kotaru asked inquisitively as he observed Naruto, who was now holding a ball of electricity that resembled an orb. He closed his hand and the ball vanished, saying, Manipulating pure spiritual energy is easier than I thought. As for helping you, let's just say it's a thank you for helping the kid advance a little more, plus." Naruto grinned as he untangled his tails and allowed his power to leak. He tipped his head down and allowed his eyes to peek over the edge of his glasses. In the meantime, Kotaru was on the verge of hyperventilating. All the demons, whether Hanyu or not, who were connected to Makai were aware of the demon in question. Kyubi! He exclaimed. "Why you, not supposed to be here? What's so important?" Eva crossed her arms, refusing to admit that she was attracted to the energy he was releasing. "It's like it's drawing me in," she said, clearly wanting it. The man is an idiot. If Kotaru wasn't already terrified, he was now after someone insulted the strongest demon in the world. "Do you know who this is? He is the Mose," he said, turning to face Eva, and before he could finish, he burst out laughing. The funniest thing, though, had to be the Chibi. Pire, that was written in bold lettering on her forehead, with a few random scribbles on the side of her face, mostly about blood, and a couple of drawings that oddly resembled a certain demon lord and the doll on his head. "Brat, what are you laughing at?" She went to the side of the stairs where a stream was flowing by and looked at her reflection. Her vision went red. She got some water and splashed it on her face, then she slowly turned around and looked at the fox, or his dust figure. She turned to look up the stairs and saw Naruto already a ways away. "Get back here you stupid fox." She then left in his wake. Now that he was by himself, Kotaru stood up and started walking in the other direction. "So the Kyubi is back, huh? Why didn't the other kid tell us about this? I know he knew something about it." According to what he heard, the other kid, like fighter in the group he worked for, was a sensor type. If someone had any kind of power, the kid would have sensed it. How didn't he sense someone of Kyubi Sama's strength? He asked. He wanted to know why he couldn't defeat the strongest demon, pride be damned. Chibi. Here. He thought about the vampire. Nay. Chan is sure scary though. Then a rock appeared out of nowhere and nailed him in the back of the head.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.